evening. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of February 9th, 2026. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda, and tonight's meeting will be broadcast on the city's YouTube channel online. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Severs.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Here.
Councilmember Roper.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Here.
Councilmember Leidy.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay. Moving to public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. City Clerk Small, is there anyone signed up to speak to council?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 5 individuals on the list. The first person is Tom Lampo.
Welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Right. Thank you. Hello to everyone. Hello to Northglenn. I'm Tom Lampo, 3951 Jackson Way. And I'm here to lift Northglenn up to the Lord in prayer, so please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, we invite you here to the city of Northglenn. You are always welcome here. This is your city. You are holy, the Lord God Almighty. No one is before you, and you answer to no one. No one can approach your authority. You constantly war for our souls against an enemy we cannot see. Our adversary wants our destruction. You want eternal life and freedom from bondage for all. You are consistent and trustworthy. Your word is strong and powerful. Hebrews 4:12 states, "For the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and of spirit, of joints and of marrow, and discerning the thoughts and intentions of the heart." Bring your word alive to our lives, because in it we can have life and defend ourselves from our adversary. All of us in Northglenn are here for this time. For your purpose, you have placed us here. Guide us in our thoughts and deeds, and bring meaning and purpose to our lives. Direct us to the path you want us to travel. Isaiah 26:4 states, "Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock." Everything about you is solid. We can set our foundation upon you and build a life worth living. You don't care where we've been or what we've been a part of. You are patient and a loving God. Send your Holy Spirit into our lives and change us to live a life worthy of you. As we look around us, there is confusion and fear. None of us are immune from it. The world gives us multiple messages, although none of them give insight into your truths. We need discernment, wisdom from you to make sense of it. Your word in 1 Corinthians 2:14 states, "The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned." Help us to look past our natural circumstances, where we can be deceived, and look to you for discernment of what is happening around us. Only then will we truly gain understanding of the world around us. You are our God, and we are your people. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is Loris Freihoff.
Hi, please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Hi, I am Laurice Freehoff. I live at 3071 East 106th Avenue. I have like 3 short things. One, I wanted to thank the police department. I came from Thornton. I used to live in Northglenn. I moved to Thornton and I moved back to Northglenn. And I have to tell you, when we left, we adopted special needs children with severe trauma. One of them in particular has a really severe trauma. and he has meltdowns, and in Thornton, we got no support. We got told it was our fault. We got told that they had to parent our child, and it was night and day difference when we came here. They came to the house prepared. They checked in with the crisis unit, checked in first, and I'm telling you, I cannot tell you what a relief it is as a parent to have a police department that understands mental illness and is willing to address it in a safe manner and not do a lot of shaming and blaming. And thank you. The other thing I wanted to say is that I talked to one of the council members before about this, but there's a grocery store that's an online grocery store called Commonwealth Grocer. And I don't know if this would be something that the city would be interested in sending out like a flyer asking people to sign up. But if we get 1,000 people in our area to sign up for this grocery store, we get 30 to 50% off groceries. It is an online store, so it wouldn't be one that would be in the neighborhood, but it would save people a lot of money financially if they could get better prices. And right now, with everything so tight, that's hard. And lastly, I also belong to an organization called No Small Act. I'm trying to build a communication system in Colorado through No Small Act to help in case of situations if we end up in a situation like Minnesota. I kind of was wondering if we had any kind of plans for supporting our community in the event that this might happen, and if we don't, if we plan to get a plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual on the list is Roger McCain.
Hi, welcome. Please state your name. And
I pass, I think. I'll just be identification.
okay. Okay.
All right.
I'm Roger McCain, longtime Northglenn resident. And yeah, I've been here well before all the gun grabbing and the lunatic issues have come around to as troublesome. My main purpose in being here is to support the issues, the people with issues surrounding the halfway house or the sex offender house. And I've been a strong opponent of this from the very beginning. And and another thing that concerns me regarding this, I know there was an issue there last fall that somehow went away. A stabbing. Someone had to have died there because there was enough police tape there to warrant that. And but that particular story seemed to go away, and having a natural mistrust of all things with the state of Colorado, I had some concerns about that and the duplicity that it might represent. I certainly would like to see some resolution, some comment on that. I'm sure that somebody knows about it, but in all my research, I have never been able to find more than one story on 9 News, and then suddenly it went away. So that's a concern of mine, and that's surrounding this whole issue. This, I'm close enough to the house that I drive by it maybe 2-3 times a day, and to that treatment center. There were promises made about that were never kept. maybe a taller, more secure fencing around that facility, especially on the backside and to the adjacent areas. There's been a lot of foot dragging there that I suspect, and it was slow in opening. I think they were less than transparent about who's in there, and it's not as easy anymore as it used to be to identify sex predators in the neighborhood. The common citizen has to work a lot harder to get that information, and sometimes has to pay for it. I'm not objecting to any of that. That's not my issue here. But that pretty much wraps it up. I do have those concerns. I'm pleased with the direction the city's going in terms of safety and so on, and I'm pleased with the decision prior to this that was made about the city park and the homeless issues there, and there was a stabbing there of just an innocent person strolling around. So those all concern us. I mean, we all have compassion, but and empathy, but we are concerned about public safety, and that's basically what our taxpayer, our tax money pays for. So, so that about wraps it up, and I'll be patiently waiting for this.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
The next person on the list is Christopher Baum.
Hi, welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Yes, my name is Chris Baum, and I live at 11176 Livingston Drive, Ward 4. And I just want to talk to you about the fact that I find the state laws regarding ICE and the lack of sharing information that Colorado has levied to be very troubling. I think it is paramount that law enforcement agencies share information and the public cooperate with law enforcement, no matter whether federal, state, or local. For example, if there were fireworks set off in my neighbor's yard and a police officer were to knock on my door to ask questions, I would not say, "Hey, pig, show me your warrant or get off my property." I personally don't agree with the fireworks ordinance, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't help enforce it where I can. Residents' issues like my issues should be addressed to council, not to those that we the people hire to enforce council's dicta. Furthermore, Northglenn publicizing its unwillingness to cooperate with other enforcement agencies leads to public disdain for law enforcement. Demonstrations such as at Sheridan and 120th, where signs are prominently displayed, saying F ICE are the result. This is not the kind of community I want to live in. If demonstrators have issues with immigration, they should address their concerns to legislators and not to enforcers. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is Melissa Ryan.
Hi, welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
All right, Melissa Ryan and 11661 Lincoln Street. In early 2024, Northglenn was able to stand together and oppose registered sex offenders from occupying residency at any MHTL facility located on Malley Drive. Over 1,000 residents attended and spoke up on their concerns and fear of this facility being in our town near schools, churches, and recreation centers and access to children and senior citizens. Since the opening of the facility, there has been a lot of issues recorded: drug violations, calls to the police, and recently a stabbing. These facilities are not properly maintained, with their fence overgrown, trash laying out, and never maintained properly, and they continue to bring issues to the Northglenn residents that live nearby. Now, 2 years later, a temporary agreement with MHTL is to not house sex offenders is set to expire at the beginning of April. I'm here to ask my city representatives to continue pushing a law that would permanently ban sex offenders on any MHTL facilities. I want to thank Lori Goldstein and Kyle McCullough for supporting the concerned residents of Northglenn and supporting a permanent ban on sex offenders living in any MHTL facility. And it was interesting because I actually got a phone call this afternoon while I was waiting for my son, because I was outspoken on Nextdoor and on Facebook, and I let Jenny Wilford know that I was not pleased that she was no longer supporting us and having our back and cooperating with the city's needs on this matter. She called me. We had an interesting conversation. She let me know that she cannot support a bill that has not been written, that she has not read, and that she cannot openly support that, but that at the same time, nobody from the city's office of Northglenn has ever reached out to her, ever spoken to her in this matter, and that this is the first she's hearing of it, and she was shocked I posted this on social media and let her know my distaste for her lack of support when 2 years ago she was very promising to Northglenn and the residents that she at one time used to represent here on council herself. So she says that she can't sponsor or support it until she knows exactly what's going to be written in it, but that she does not necessarily support sex offenders, but she's not willing to support this bill until she knows what's in it. I would also like to say she's not the only one who needs blame here. We need to hold Polis accountable for his actions and even allowing this to get signed in to begin with, and allowing these facilities to take over the state of Colorado, not just here in Northglenn, but throughout the state. He is not the only one that holds responsibility here. If anybody would like to look, there's a lot of legislators that actually signed this in, but I want to point out personally, Mike Bennett, because he's currently going to be up and running again, and he's been making his name well known. So we need to start holding some responsibility here. Sex offenders have no place in our neighborhoods, near our children, near our schools, near our churches. So I'm here to support City Council in backing Lori and Kyle McCullough, and hopefully banning sex offenders permanently from these facilities. There's no place for it. We have enough crime. We have enough issues. My understanding is, even with the recent stabbing, that the stabbing victim themselves was actually evicted for having drug paraphernalia. And they were giving no help until the city crisis response team and the police department stepped in and helped this individual. So this facility, I believe it's Cypress that is running these facilities, was just going to release a felon out onto the streets with nowhere to go. We all know they'd probably end up living at Webster Lake, if we're going to be perfectly honest here, along with multiple others that have been there for years on end. So that's their solution, is we want no responsibility once we put them into your city. So shame on Cypress for doing this to us, not just here in Northglenn, in Lakewood, in Highlands Ranch, all the other cities that they have done this to. Thank you to our police department for trying to keep us safe and doing what you guys can do. Additionally, I want to echo what that lady said about the crisis response team. Amazing staff there. They're not just here for anybody with mental health crises. They help our senior citizens. I feed my 91-year-old neighbor nightly, check on her. She doesn't qualify for certain assistance. They have stepped in tremendously. Great staff there. So I just want to thank you guys. I'll be here to hear some resolutions and ideas from you guys and probably speak again shortly. Thank you.
Those were all the individuals who signed up in advance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who did not have a chance to sign up that would like to speak to council at this time? Yeah, come on. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Hi, my name's Amanda Mays Gottschalk. I live at 10849 Carroll Lane. I'm not as highly prepared as Melissa, but she's a wonderful. But yeah, 2 years ago, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember us. We were all pretty active in helping with stopping the sex offenders from coming to the transitional facilities. I think one thing that a lot of our community does not understand, with a lot of us that are against this, is that we're not against the mental health help. definitely advocate it. We need it. We love it. The problem is the issues with the violent crimes that can come with some of the people they're letting in, and the fact that it's right across the street from a school. That's insane. Literally walking distance. My kids literally walk around that entire neighborhood like all the time. They love it. And it's crazy because I'm scared to let them go. And that shouldn't be the case. And knowing that this is expiring now, that they may be able to bring that in, we're not okay with that. Not to mention the fact that knowing, even recently today, like we've been getting all these documents in today after finding out that this was coming up, that over 72 calls have been made to these facilities, and we didn't know about any of these. The only one we knew about was the stabbing, and that's because the community members came together to let the other community know. And that's not okay. And to find out that, you know, these are people in there who have a history of violent crime, who have violence against our police officers and everyone, and honestly, that's not okay. Like, not only should we be looking at maybe not having these sex offenders living there at all, because we have to protect our children. We have to protect the vulnerable, because who's going to say that, how do I word this? Knowing that these crimes are happening even right now, and that these things are happening, that we're getting calls, that these stabbings are happening, that these residents are being able to still keep drugs inside of there, which if you look at the report about the stabbing, that was in there. That the person who did the stabbing had drug paraphernalia hidden in there. If they can't even regulate what they have now, how are they going to regulate offenders who aren't going to keep that stuff probably in there, because they're not going to bring a child back in there. They're going to go somewhere and do it. Like, no, if they can't regulate what they have now, then this cannot be happening. We really need to speak up, and especially against Jenny. I am so disappointed to know that she is not standing with us on this when she was so active with us 2 years ago on this. There were so many of you that I even see today that, you know, were very there. I mean, Mr. Kondo, you were there with us when we did the protest. You were, Mary, you were there for us, which honestly was, no offense, I have not been your biggest fan, but I 100% am so glad that you have been there for us and supported us with that. And it does change my mind slightly with a few. So I like that. So yay. But like, just knowing like she was one of those ones that were so active with us in there, and now she just like turned 100, like completely around on us. And it's like, we don't understand what's going on as a community. And some of us are so confused to know, we knew this was temporary, but to know that we don't have that backing anymore is kind of upsetting. And we're really hoping to see that change soon. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who didn't have a chance to sign up that would like to speak to council? I don't know if you can.
I have my last 19 seconds.
Sure.
Interesting, because I just spoke. Got a message from Jenny Wilford. She says, unfortunately, in 2024, I attended a community meeting in Northglenn to hear directly from residents about serious concerns regarding the potential placement of registered sex offenders at a mental health transitional living facility located near an elementary school. After that meeting, I worked to broker an agreement ensuring that the state would not place registered sex offenders at the facility. Tonight, Northglenn City Council will hear a presentation on legislative efforts to codify that agreement. Unfortunately, a small number of local elected officials have chosen to spread misinformation about my position rather than communicate with me directly and honestly. So I want to set the record straight. I received a draft of the bill just a few hours ago. I continue to believe that the current location of the facility is not appropriate for housing registered sex offenders receiving a recovery treatment. I look forward to fully reviewing the legislation once it is introduced and support it on the House floor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? You can press *6 to unmute at this time. Okay. All right. We are going to move into proclamations. We have 3 tonight. So I would invite council to join me down front. Did I find my glasses? Oh, no. All right, we are going to start with American Heart Month. So we have fitness instructor Karen Carrillo, yes? And Silver Sneakers participants, we have a whole bunch. Brenda Smith, Sarah Schwalier. Did I say that right? No, not at all. Roxana Torres, Phyllis Peterson, Teresa Hansen, and Betty Anderson. This is just the Silver Sneakers rock stars is what I see. This is great. Welcome. Hello, hello. All right. Whereas American Heart Month is observed each February to raise awareness about heart disease, the leading cause of death in the United States, and to promote education and prevention efforts that support heart health for individuals and families. And whereas the 2026 American Heart Month theme emphasizes prevention, heart-healthy living, and the importance of knowing personal risk factors to reduce the incidence of cardiovascular disease and improve long-term health outcomes. And whereas heart disease and stroke affect people of all ages, races, and backgrounds, and many risk factors, including high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, physical inactivity, poor nutrition, and unmanaged stress, can be prevented or managed through healthy lifestyle choices and access to quality health care. And whereas increasing public awareness about heart-healthy behaviors, early detection, and emergency response can save lives and improve quality of life across our community. Whereas the City of Northglenn supports heart health through community wellness initiatives and parks and recreation programs that encourage physical activity, active living, and access to recreational opportunities for residents of all ages and abilities. Whereas community-wide participation in American Heart Month reinforces the importance of individual and collective actions that promote wellness, reduce health disparities, and strengthen the overall health and resilience of our city. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as American Heart Month in the City of Northglenn. I encourage all residents, businesses, schools, healthcare providers, and community organizations to support the 2026 theme of participating in activities and educational efforts that promote heart-healthy lifestyles, preventative care, and overall well-being. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 9th day of February, 2026. So I am so excited that we have this amazing group from Silver Sneakers. But I'm going to pause just for a minute because you're representing a certain activity that will promote Healthy Heart Month. But I also want to give our Mayor Pro Tem a moment to add another piece before we take our photo.
Thank you, first of all, Madam Mayor, for allowing me the privilege to speak a little bit about this. So it is Heart Awareness Month, but it is also Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week as well, from February 7th through the 14th. And again, this is an honor for me because I did lose a grandson in 2021 to a congenital heart defect. So I wanted to make sure that everybody had awareness as well. I know the last time we did this proclamation, it was a part of the proclamation. So again, thank you for letting me say something to that effect. But just a little bit of information about what a congenital heart disease is, or congenital heart defect, or CHD, as it's called, are birth defects that affect the structure of a baby's heart and the way it works. It is the most common birth defect, with approximately 1% of newborns born with a CHD each year. My grandson was one of those. Of those born with a CHD, 1 in 4 infants typically need surgery or other procedures in their first year of life. CHD treatments treatment helps kids live into adulthood, and today there are more than 2.4 million heart warriors, or children and adults, living with CHTs in the U.S. I would like to say that there is a regional council in Denver for CHDs, and my daughter is the chair. She's turned tragedy and trauma into hope. And even in the 5 years since my grandson's passing, there's been research that now allows for in utero surgeries for babies that didn't exist 5 years ago. So thank you, Madam Mayor. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you. We're going to take a photo. I'm going to squeeze in. I might be inferring here, but I think Councilmember Goff might be a part of this group, maybe? All right, up next, Black History Month. So I'd like to welcome Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board members Celeste Jackson and Sammy Gomez to accept this proclamation. Or maybe it's just you. Great. Welcome. Whereas the City of Northglenn recognizes and honors the rich history, culture, and contributions of Black Americans, whose achievements have shaped the fabric of our nation and enriched our community. And whereas Black History Month, observed each February, provides an opportunity to celebrate the countless contributions of Black Americans in every field of endeavor, from science and arts to business, education, public service, civic leadership, and beyond. And whereas this year marks the 100th anniversary of Black History Month commemorations, a milestone reflecting a century of national observances dedicated to honoring Black history and life. And whereas the 2026 official theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations, encourages us to reflect on the enduring significance of these observances, how they have promoted a more inclusive and accurate understanding of American history, affirmed identity and dignity, and challenged communities and institutions to preserve and teach the full story of our shared past. And whereas Black History Month also reminds us of ongoing efforts to confront systemic inequities and to reaffirm our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion as core values of a just and vibrant community. And whereas the City of Northglenn affirms that learning and honoring the history of Black Americans helps build bridges of understanding and opportunity, inspires future generations, and strengthens the cultural fabric of our city. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Northglenn, and encourage all community members to observe this month with programs, activities, and reflections that celebrate the achievements of Black Americans, recognize the contributions they have made to our collective history, and reaffirm our community's commitment to equity and inclusion. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 9th day of February, 2026. Would you like to add?
Would. Thank you. Hi, I'm Celeste Jackson. I am on the board of the Diversity, Inclusion, and Social Equity Board. Excuse me, I got that all confused. I wanted to say that Black history is American history, and when we all stand together, we're better. Thank you.
Great. Okay, for this final one, I have been so excited for this because I would like to welcome Edward N. Lockley to come forward, please. I've just been so excited to meet you. So I believe your troop leader is Toby Williams. Is that correct? Great. We get to celebrate Edward today because he's now an Eagle Scout. Look at that. I know, it's so cool. Okay, I'm going to read all this about you. You ready? All right. Whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest achievement attainable in Scouting America and represents exceptional dedication, leadership, service, and commitment to the Scout oath and law. And whereas only a small percentage of Scouts nationwide earn the distinction of Eagle Scout, a milestone that reflects years of perseverance, personal growth, and the successful completion of rigorous requirements, including merit badges, leadership responsibilities, and a service project benefiting the community. And whereas, through perseverance and determination, Edward N. Lockley, a member of Scout Troop 311, has completed all requirements for the Eagle Scout rank, including the successful planning and execution of a service project to establish a new trail system at the Batting Detention Area, which enhances public access, supports outdoor recreation, and provides a lasting benefit for the Northglenn community, with residents and users of all ages able to enjoy the trail system for years to come. And whereas Edward has demonstrated outstanding character, initiative, and leadership throughout his scouting journey, earning the respect of his peers, mentors, and community. Whereas, in achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Edward has exemplified the values of citizenship, service, responsibility, and integrity that are essential to building strong communities and preparing young leaders for lifelong civic engagement. And whereas the City of Northglenn recognizes and applauds the positive impact of scouting programs in developing future leaders who contribute meaningfully to their communities through service and leadership. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby commend and honor Edward N. Lockley for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout and extend sincere congratulations on this significant accomplishment. The City of Northglenn recognizes this achievement as a testament to Edward's hard work, dedication, and commitment to excellence, and wishes him continued success in all future endeavors. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 9th day of February, 2026. Woohoo! They're so fun. All right, up next is a presentation. This is an update on CML-initiated legislation and ongoing safety issues concerning the mental health transitional living facility, We have lobbyist Adam Berg, City Manager Geyer, and Chief May to discuss this with us tonight. We will start with our city lobbyist, Adam Berg, who will present an update to council.
Madam Mayor, can I jump in here real quick?
We're just having a discussion. We're not voting on anything?
Yeah, I was just going to make an announcement.
Okay.
Yeah. For transparency, due to my professional relationships with the providers operating the mental health transitional living home facility and my supervisory role with staff serving mental health clients there, I'm recusing myself from tonight's discussion on this item.
All right. Welcome, Adam Berg.
All right.
Hi.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Adam Berg with Foster Graham Milstein and Cowsher Law Firm and the lobbyist for the city of Northglenn. We wanted to present tonight a update. You should have received a memorandum that covers much of this information. We'll walk through, obviously, some of the background of how we ended up where we are now, and then the current state of legislative efforts to address some of our concerns. So this all came about. Colorado has historically ranked nationwide pretty low in treating behavioral health in adults. It's been a topic at the legislature, and as part of this, the governor established the Behavioral Health Task Force through an executive order in 2019. In 2021, the General Assembly passed the first bill related to this issue, which was Senate Bill 137, which modified and funded behavioral health programs throughout the state through funds from ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act, which came to both the state and other jurisdictions. The bill also provided for the Behavioral Health Transformational Task Force to be created, whose goal was to identify areas across Colorado where the access to and delivery of behavioral health services could be improved. So that task force, through meeting, recommended 8 investments, which they said would address behavioral crisis situations in Colorado. One of those recommendations was allocating $65 to $71 million of ARPA funds in increased adult inpatient and residential care. That task force then recommended that the General Assembly make such investments in the care and provide integrated care for those experiencing serious mental health or chronic behavioral health needs. In the following session, this is 2022, the General Assembly introduced House Bill 1303, which they said was to fill a gap in the behavioral health system, specifically around transitional living. Now, this was designed for those who do not need the acute care of a mental hospital, but who are not yet stabilized to completely integrate back into society. So this bill established the Mental Health Transitional Living, or MHTL facilities, which we have been discussing, to serve those individuals with mental health disorders who need support or long-term residential setting. That bill, House Bill 1303, created the provider type for the mental health residential facilities. The bill also required the Colorado Department of Human Services and the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing to create, develop, and or contract additional beds for the purpose of transitional living. That component was done through the 2 hospitals that are run by the state serving the mentally ill. That is the Mental Health Institute at Fort Logan and the Colorado Mental Health Institute at Pueblo. That was sort of the bed expansion from a state side. They also provided that MHTL homes may be operated by the state or contracted to private providers. However, regardless of the ownership structure, all MHTL homes must contract with DHS and enroll with HCPF in order to bill for and render services. The bill's focus really here is the creation of these transitional living facilities in the state, placed throughout the state and set at different levels. So when they talked about the creation of the facilities, they outlined specifically 3 kinds of MHTL homes. The first, or level 1, was transitional living. That is designed to support an individual's transition to full independence. The second was supported therapeutic transitional living. This includes more whole person care, in-home clinical service, intensive case management, and the prescriber to oversee medication management. And then the third and final time was more of a nursing home transitional living. So this is more of a therapeutic environment of care. It's treatment within a more residential setting, You have 24-hour care. It's designed for those who need nursing or medical care at all times with ongoing complex medical conditions. Per the DHS website and creation of the program, there are a number of homes planned and some currently operating in the state of Colorado. That includes 3 homes in Colorado Springs, 3 homes in Lakewood, 2 homes in Northglenn, 2 homes in Denver, 2 homes in the Pueblo West area, 1 home in Highlands Ranch, and another home in Westminster. When they released this announcement, they had a rollout and sort of a test phase of some of these facilities. As you'll know, most of these are not open. There are only a few open. Obviously, we have them in Northglenn as part of this. The city had learned, as was discussed, that the state was planning on housing registered sex offenders at this new type of facility, which we were informed of via email to the police department. There was no notification to city leadership about the rollout or the opening of these facilities. And as you all know, the city held a community meeting on April 3rd of 2024, where we had over 1,000 residents in attendance, and it was live streamed to another 5,100 folks who viewed that. The state agreed to be a good neighbor despite concerns expressed by residents in attendance at the meeting, and they agreed not to house registered sex offenders at any of their MHTLF facilities for a 2-year period, a time frame that ends this spring. And then on April 8th, 2024, City Council passed an emergency ordinance number 1863, increasing the sex offender distance limitation from 750 feet to 1,000 feet from schools. And then this was an amendment to the ordinance passed by council on June 24th of 2022. As you'll note, when you do look at the FAQ website for these facilities, the state does say that they will not place a registered sex offender within 1,000 feet of a school. And that still exists on their website today. The city began working with the Colorado Municipal League, or CML, in the late spring and summer of 2024 to initiate a bill to formally memorialize and put into statute the state's commitment to not house registered sex offenders in these facilities. The city worked with leadership across varying groups, including Adams 12 School District and the Colorado Association of School Boards, or CASB, who provide unanimous support for CML to initiate the legislation. The CML Policy Committee then unanimously voted to initiate that legislation for the 2025 session. However, they were unable to secure a late bill sponsor in the House. As we discussed, we had hoped that Rep. Wilford would sponsor that bill last year in a late bill status, but did not do so. City leadership also met with CML and the governor's office and Representative Wilford in 2025. Early 2025, and the governor's office has expressed concern with the proposed legislation and indicated they would not support it. For the 2026 session, which we are currently in, the newly appointed House District 29 Representative Lori Goldstein has agreed to serve as the House sponsor of this bill, and Senate District 24 Senator Kyle Mollica will be the Senate sponsor. The proposed legislation is scheduled to be introduced in the coming week, with an upcoming filing deadline, so it will be read across the desk and signed up into its first committee hearing. As part of these ongoing efforts and some other issues that have arisen out of the facility in Northglenn, the mayor sent Michelle Barnes, who is the executive director of the Department of Human Services, a letter that formally expressed the city's safety concerns regarding the facility. Obviously, this stemmed from the stabbing, but also other incidents and calls we've seen that the chief is certainly able to talk about. In that letter, we really outlined several concerns. One was the repeated emergency response calls to the same facilities over extended periods of time. For example, the house at 11275 Grant Drive had 43 calls for service over a 2-year period. The house at 11255 Grant Drive had 29 calls for service over a 2-year period. Incidents have suggested inadequate on-site supervision for those who are in these homes. We have concerns about the impact on neighborhood safety and residents who are in the area. And there is a clear absence of accountability mechanisms when these operational deficiencies have persisted. And I want to note, we have not yet heard back from Director Barnes or the state about our letter that was sent. Overall, the city believes that the state has failed how they screen high-risk individuals, monitor and manage this transitional housing setting. In initial conversations, we were told these would be low acuity individuals. I think we have seen circumstances that ask the question of who is in the facilities. We feel the state is placing violent individuals in the homes without proper disclosure to the city, without safeguards, or without coordination with law enforcement, which places residents, staff, first responders, and nearby community members at an unacceptably high risk. We have passed our own municipal ordinance, which prohibits a registered sex offender from maintaining temporary or permanent housing within the 1,000 feet of any school and 500 feet from any park, playground, licensed daycare center, recreation center, or swimming pool. And there are currently no state laws which restrict where sex offenders may live. There are several court cases that have been filed in relation to similar issues, one of which stemming out of Inglewood, and was held up by the court, in which they said the determination was there was no state law which preempted such restrictions, and that Inglewood, as a home rule city, had the authority to establish such standards. Our bill is coming for introduction. We continue to push on the state to respond to us and to respond specifically to our letter and address the additional concerns. But obviously, we'll open it up to questions from council, and City Manager Geyer and obviously the chief are here for questions as well.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could add two quick.
Yes, please.
First of all, just 2 points of clarification. In the original legislation in House Bill 1303 from 2022, there was not a single mention of sex offenders in the bill. So to the extent there were legislators that were voting on the bill in front of them, I would suggest they may not have known the impacts on local communities, which made this legislation necessary. Secondly, as to the legislation, I want to be clear because it's very limited. All it does is provide a 1,000-foot limitation from any of these facilities in the state of Colorado from a school. And that language was based on building consensus not only within CML, but also with the Colorado Association of School Boards, so that there would be a bright line rule not only applied to Northglenn, but applied across the state, that registered sex offenders could not be placed in one of these facilities if it were within 1,000 feet of a school. So there are other locations, other mental health transitional facilities where sex offenders could be housed. They just could not be housed at the facility in Northglenn because they're within 1,000 feet of a school if this legislation is passed.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Berg, for the presentation, and really appreciate your vigilance on all of these developments as part of our lobbying team. My question for you, sir, is can you confirm for me whether the state did commit to putting anything in writing with the city after the negotiations that occurred in 2024? Is there anything in writing?
Councilmember Kondo, I'll respond to that question. The state, I would say, after significant media exposure and pressure, did respond and put something on their department website for a period of time. I believe that's, I don't believe that's still there. I could be wrong, but it was reported initially through a media outlet that they were making that commitment, but that was the essence of how it got communicated to us.
Gotcha. So no formal letter from the state to the city saying we are committing to XYZ?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Adam, for the quick update for everyone. So as far as I can tell from reading and looking around, there was a proposed, I think 14 of these facilities throughout the state, and the money that was primarily driving their development is drying up because it was from the COVID era, okay? So there's also, only 4 of the 14 are operating to my knowledge, and 2 of them are here. So we have 50% of the facilities that we're discussing, and it's just important for everyone to know, it is going to affect us certainly a lot more than the state. And pushing on people in government and our representatives is super important because we bear the overall cost of what the state decides. So just remember, push back at your state representatives, senators. Legislation is introduced, so as long as we get that commitment from our congresspeople to push it forward and get it done, it'll be a done deal. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I would assume everyone in this room is on the same page for the most part. So let's just get it across the finish line.
Councilmember Roper?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Berg, for coming out tonight. And thank you to our audience who came out and community members who came out to speak. I think I can speak for many up here on the dais that we are committed to keeping our community safe, and we want to partner with you all on this, that this is not, that just as we did 2 years ago, we stand behind our decision then to really ensure that our community is safe for everyone. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you to everyone who came out and spoke this evening, and thank you to Mr. Berg. We've been here since 4:30 for our legislative committee. And I just want to say, speaking from the Ledge Committee, Mayor Pro Tem and I have been on it throughout this entire process, and we have been working very hard for the last 2 years to get this done. Publicly, we've shared a lot, and even behind the scenes, securing the transition with the help of the amazing Mr. Berg, of transitioning from when Representative Shannon Bird decided to leave the legislature. She was originally going to run the bill, to finding Representative Goldstein. So we've been hard at work to make sure this passes this session with the expiration date coming up. I just wanted to let everyone know that sometimes everything isn't super visible, the work that we do to represent everyone, but we care deeply about this community, and like as someone who's raising kids in this community, we see the impacts this is having, and we want to make sure that we get this done. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, I just want to echo some of my fellow council members to thank everybody who came to speak, because we need to hear input from our residents, and this is a really important issue. And thank you to Adam Berg for the very thoughtful presentation. I just want to say that I think the safety of everyone in our community is of vital importance to the City Council, and we've always wanted to support mental health, and I think there were some good hearts behind the initial passing of the bill, because we do need more support for mental health in our state. However, this has become an unfunded mandate, and it puts the burden on our community to deal with all the repercussions of a program that maybe wasn't very well thought out and hasn't been very well funded. And so we've been doing our best, as you've heard, working to make some changes on this. I do think it's really positive that the courts have supported the City of Englewood's local ordinances. And so I feel like that, there's a good chance that ours will also hold up in court. But it is really important to try to get the state to actually make some changes, because that affects everyone, not just Northglenn, and it also gives us some more oomph, some more power to really enforce what we need to do to keep our residents safe. Thank you.
Councilmember Leidy?
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to echo everything that my fellow, anyways. I just wanted to say, I think, again, thank you for coming and speaking up and saying that this is disappointing. Like, I think it's really disappointing that we had a really big conversation 2 years ago and the city responded with action, and unfortunately our legislators ignored that. And that really, I'm going to say it sucks. So I think it's important that our community continues to come out and say, hey, this isn't okay, and this isn't something that we're ever going to be okay with. I think there's also a piece that we all need to start paying attention to what our legislators are doing when they go. After we elect them, they're not just hanging out in a big building we really, I mean, myself included, I need to make sure that I hold them accountable, and also make sure that they're not feeding us with false information. I think that's something that unfortunately we've seen more often, and I'm really disappointed by the way that this is continuing to go, especially by our representative.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think this bill started with good intentions. As was mentioned, we need more. We need more treatment facilities, and I think we all agree with that fundamentally. However, unintended consequences, right, and lack of communication is what started this whole thing here in our city. And we feel strongly, as you can hear, to continue to protect our community through legislative actions, which is why we're pushing so hard for this bill. As Councilmember Burns mentioned, we've had so many meetings. I remember at least 5 last year with the governor's office, and the pushback was pretty incredible. And you mentioned behind the scenes, and that's some of what goes on behind the scenes that we didn't report out every single time. Hey, we're at the Capitol again. Hey, we're communicating with our senators and representatives again. And we did not feel that support that has been brought forward. As a matter of fact, we tried really hard to get a late bill status, and it was shot down pretty heavily last year. So really thankful and appreciative of Senator Mullica and Rep. Goldstein for taking on the initiative, and Goldstein for sponsoring this bill to move it forward. And I'm hoping there will be opportunity for public testimony. And I think that's the next step. You know, as it moves forward, we hope to hear all of your strong voices, the ones that showed up here this, I almost said this morning, woo, this evening, to express how you feel about this. They need to understand they work for you. They don't work for themselves. And so this is about community, not politics. And I think, frankly, we've had enough of the politics when it concerns our residents and their safety. So we're going to fight pretty hard for you. And I just want to let you all know, I'm on the CML Policy Committee and got to present with our city attorney to get this moving forward as well. And we have pretty strong support. So the fire's coming. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I want to also add a couple pieces. When our lobbyist was giving us a timeline, glossed over pretty quickly the time between the town hall and the agreement. And in between the town hall and the agreement was a lot of fighting. It was hard conversations. As you've heard already, council members showed up. Our city attorney was actively involved. We were, knocking on the doors over and over and over to get that agreement in place. And it was a celebration, and yet we knew it was a temporary solution. So as soon as that was in place, the work continued because we need a permanent solution for this for our residents. So again, thank you to our newly sworn in Representative Lori Goldstein. And I know that she comes at this, she stepped in brand new, but she was also, or is currently, on the Board of Education for Adams 12. And so she also sees that as an advocate for students, an advocate for families, understanding the safety. And so she jumped in right away, raised her hand, and said, yes, I will do it. Now, my disappointment is that our representative did not do that. She didn't do it 2 years ago. She hasn't done it since then. And I'm even more disappointed at the misrepresentation. She's been circling the wagons a little bit today. She's not happy that we're shining a light on this. And if she has, in fact, committed to our resident, Melissa Ryan, if she has, in fact, committed to supporting this bill, I think we need to see how she votes, because we have had her say to us in the past, I will vote in this way, and then when push comes to shove, she votes in opposition of what Northglenn wants. And so that's really frustrating. I do want to elevate some of the misrepresentations because she was asked to sponsor this bill multiple times. She was present at our legislative dinner on January 5th, where we openly discussed it, and it was celebrated that we thanked publicly Senator Mullica and Rep. Goldstein for sponsoring it. She was in the room. It was an opportunity for her. I reached out to her personally this weekend and asked for a discussion. I asked for a conversation. I said, please help me understand. And I was told the same kind of standard sentence of, I'm not going to support or not support something I haven't read. And yet I pushed back and said, but I need to know how you feel. Like, is your heart for Northglenn? Is your heart, do you understand that this is important to us, whether you've seen the bill or not? And I even provided some stock language. Like, you could have said, I haven't read it yet, but I support the intent of it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm ready to get my hands dirty and help this get across the finish line. And she did not say any of those things. And that's our biggest concern, because it is a big deal. This is not about disparaging Rep. Wilford. It's about pushing. It's about shining a light on the fact that we need her help. We need her support. We need her to jump in because she represents Northglenn, and we need her to show up for us. There's 65 other members that we need their yes vote as well. But if our representative is a no, that's going to change the tide, and that's a problem. And we also, just as residents, I mean, I'm a resident. I want her to represent us and not herself. So I'm really hoping she's listening. I'm hoping she understands that we just want to partner with her and we want to get this finished, because it should be simple. It's protecting our kids, it's protecting our residents, and it's necessary. And so we have to jump in this fight, and we have to do it together. And so I was so happy to see a lot of our residents come out tonight to know that. But also, there's some misinformation that council gets to decide tonight. We had a couple emails where they were like, yeah, make it happen tonight. Well, we can't. We need your help. All of us are willing to show up and speak out, but we may need some residents to join us, and we need to continue to shine the light on this issue. So I really, really appreciate everyone coming out. We have a couple more comments. Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some overarching ideas that come into play in this situation that people should just keep in mind going forward, in my opinion. Strong executive, whether it be at the state level, whether it be at the federal level, there's risk with that, right? Because maybe the state just doesn't care what Northglenn says and they just push it through. And if we don't get our legislators on our side, there's not much we can do other than do some local ordinances to avoid it, right? So that matters. A strong executive can sometimes get things done that matter, but if you disagree with it, you're kind of at their will. The second thing is there's always a rush to privatize things and take it out of the hands of government or the state. Sometimes it makes sense, but it doesn't always make sense. This is a private-run company that is being hired by the state. So the state can pay attention and can be on top of things, but they can also just shove it to the side and make changes, and it doesn't affect them. They're not here in Northglenn. So before you rush to privatize something, just keep in mind you lose some of the power. So I know I heard some residents concerned about trash and fences and things that we can't necessarily just control ourselves. So if it was a state or Northglenn property, maybe we have a little more leverage to push things. So just keep in mind, it is a risk. Sometimes it can be a reward, but it is a risk. Both things. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I had wanted to add something, but I had forgot to say it earlier. So I just want everyone to know that Rep. Wilford is also responsible for bringing forth an ordinance in the first place, or having the idea that we should have an ordinance that sets a distance limitation for sex offenders and where they live close to our families and our homes and playgrounds and schools. So when you reach out to her, it probably would be a good idea to remind her that she was a big part of that initial ordinance that we passed in 2022. She brought it forward in October of 2021. So I know this was something in the past that she supported. So we just need to make sure that we keep adding that pressure for her to continue to support it. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I do want to acknowledge for those people who are in the room. And I think, Mr. Berg, you kind of briefed that in your thumbnail, is that the city has taken really a holistic approach. And so I see numerous people from our crisis response unit. I see leadership from our Northglenn Police Department in the audience. And I think, for me personally, I think it shows how we as a city are trying to solve this problem that kind of fell into our lap. And we are bringing the whole of multiple arms of the city to try and solve this problem. And as Dr. Goff mentioned, it costs money to do that. And so in a way, it is an unfunded mandate, which tramples on home rule, something that we very much prize and treasure here in the state of Colorado as a home rule municipality. So that would be the other thing that I would ask you all to think about as we try and approach this campaign, if you will, is to be aware of these sort of things that happen where the state or a county will tell us to do something and it's not necessarily backed by money. It really puts municipalities in a tough spot. Thank you.
City Manager Guyer, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this evening we're looking for direction as to whether or not Council would like to proceed with a town hall meeting. Additionally, in conversation a bit earlier with Adam Berg, he suggested that because you have not received a response from Michelle Barnes, the Executive Director of the Department of Health and Human Services, that he, on our behalf, could outreach to the department tomorrow and see if he's successful in getting a response. So in addition to the question of whether or not council wants to proceed with a town hall meeting, do you want us to extend an invitation to the state to participate in that town hall meeting as we designed in 2024? My recommendation would be to do that
I think we
based
should.
on a lot of the misinformation and the commitments that they made in 2024, which they've not upheld.
I support that. Additionally, because we have residents that are asking, and we heard, because this was a late agenda item on tonight's meeting, and so we did have a few people reach out and say, oh, I can't come, I'd love to speak, I want to learn more about it, but it's really short notice. So I think we should, because that'll be more inclusive of the neighbors and the residents.
Okay.
Councilmember Leidy?
Sorry, I can't get my lower hand.
Oh,
Thank you.
I got it. Okay. So yes on everyone? Yes. Okay, yes to a town hall.
Okay, great. Thank you. We
Thank
will
you.
work on getting something scheduled and keep you updated.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to move to council communications. We will start with Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you again so much to everyone who came out and spoke this evening. It's greatly appreciated. I get the joy of reporting out on our legislative meeting that we had earlier. So we just had a very broad discussion on the mental health transitional living facility, so I will save us all a recap of that. We're just sort of getting rolling, so we ran through a bunch of House bills and Senate bills that we are monitoring. The only two that we've taken a position on is the lot size, which will encroach on home rule because they will try to make all residential lot sizes 2,000 square feet. Yeah. And the Home Act, we have taken an opposed to. That is the new YIGB with some different new words, new acronym, same. It's interesting that some of our former peers who are now down at the state capitol have chosen to move against home rule. So I'd just like to encourage us all to take a look at who's sponsoring some of these bills and remind them where they came from. Okay, so that is everything from Legislative Committee at the moment. But again, we have about, 30, 40 bills we're tracking at the moment. So as things pop up, we'll let you know. A lot coming to the police department for review. Heads up. I also attended my first finance committee meeting, which I believe Chair Nowicki will report out on. I just have some fun Northglenn proud things to share as well. I am super excited to announce that I have been selected for 2 committees to serve on for the National League of Cities to represent our city in. I have been chosen to be on the Council of Youth Education and Family. In ties to that, I'm also on the Young Municipal Leaders Board. And I've also been chosen to be on the Information Technology and Communications Federal Advocacy Committee, where I will help shape policy at the federal level around communications, information technology, making sure that, government can stay up to speed as technology moves forward. I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited to announce that I will be presenting again this year at the Colorado Municipal League. My talk this year will be entitled Who's Influencing Your Residents? A discussion with local Colorado creators and how the creator economy is impacting Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Leidy?
Thank you. On another note, that halftime show was amazing. Loved that. Again, thank you so much for coming and speaking. Sharing your thoughts is awesome, and making sure that you use your First Amendment right is always my favorite. I saw that the crew team snuck out, but I know that you guys will let them know that we gave them a shout out. They're amazing. All of the work that you guys do is super important, and I wanted to highlight this earlier. I just kind of forgot. Supporting our mental health services and protecting neighborhoods, they go hand in hand. They're one and the same. And our police department and our crew team do an impeccable job of that. You guys are amazing. You set the standard for other people, and it's really awesome, especially our crew team. Love them so much. Other than that, that's really all I have. Just positive things today. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Nowicki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize, everyone, for my voice. I am working through a cold given to me by my daughter, so there you go. Excuse me. On the 29th of January, I had the opportunity with a couple other council members to attend the opening of Joygen's Kitchen in Ward 2. So I recommend that everybody check it out. They serve kind of a combination of Mexican, Colombian, Venezuelan, and Peruvian food, all very delicious. I want to thank my fellow staff members for the council retreat on the 31st, and thank you to the city staff. It's always nice to be able to kind of talk in that way and kind of really, bond with you all. As Councilmember Burns said, the Finance Committee met on January 27th. Welcome to new Councilmember Burns. We discussed one of the things we're looking at is facility life cycle costs, essentially kind of budgeting for things, repairs, much like you would do with your house. You budget for a heater or a new washing machine, things like that. And a few other things we're going to review include purchasing policy, comprehensive financial policy, cash management, investment policy, and then council training, travel, and spending policy, a few of those things. So all fun stuff. The CCPP board meets tomorrow in these chambers, so we'll look forward to that. Lastly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of Jaden Arujo. He was a Northglenn High School student who was killed Saturday night in a hit and run on Huron in Thornton. So again, it's I send my condolences to the family and to the students and teachers at that school, because I know, again, a loss like that can really impact the entire community. It's really just another reminder to please slow down, please pay attention when you drive. But that's all for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Severs?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's been an interesting little while. 5 days ago, I had back surgery, so I'm here. I want everyone to know that, when you elect someone to a position like this, it's easy to, I could have done this from home, but I definitely wanted to be here. I know every meeting is important. Every chance to hear back from city councils or from the residents is important. So I'm not doing so hot, but I'm here, and I want to, and, I'm here because it matters. Enough of the sob story. Secondly, I also want to echo what Councilmember Inoki said about the team building event hosted by the mayor and city manager Geyer and the staff, McCall and everyone. It was great to do some team building. As a new member, obviously it's important to get to know everyone and how they operate, right? So that was a good event. Right before my surgery, I had my first planning commission for Northglenn meeting. It was good. The topic of conversation was more or less about the Weld County property that we have up north. I don't know how many people, it seems like a lot of Northglenn don't know about the Weld County property, as was explained, while they were looking for outreach and understanding of what we want to do with that land. It's about 500 acres or so. So we had conversations on that. That's going to be coming to City Council in March anyways. So if you're not up to speed, come out in March and join us for those conversations. This week, outside of this City Council meeting, I obviously participated in the Legislative Policy Committee with our lobbying team and all our City Council that's on the Legislative Policy Committee. There's lots going on until the session ends in May. And we just talked about one important bill. So stay up to date on what's going on in the House and Senate because it affects your daily life. So if you have any feedback or any things that you don't think make sense, shoot us emails. You can find it pretty easily. Later this week, I have my first ADCOG sub-regional transportation forum, Adams County Council of Governments, and I'm looking forward to that. And lastly, I'm excited, hopefully Friday, to celebrate the Northglenn Police Department and their ceremony. As long as I had no setback, I'll be there to support. It's important every day. And, our first responders go to some very difficult scenes. So, and deal with different difficult issues along with our crew team. So anytime we can celebrate and award, it's a good time. And then again, lastly, sorry, I added one more. I'll back up Councilmember Nowicki on the unfortunate passing of Jaden Moroho. Reiterate, slow down, don't drink. Fix your headlights if they break, simple things. But, even though it happened in Thornton, we had a Northglenn high school student. The car, I think, was recovered in Northglenn. So, and it's just important to be safe when you're welding a 3,000-pound vehicle. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just quickly go through a few things. I know I missed one of our meetings, so maybe some of this didn't get reported out. January 19th, that was the first meeting I had this year with the Northglenn Senior Organization. And one of the things I learned from wonderful people, but I did not know that they actually do raise funds, and they have an account with some funds for seniors who are in need, like some one-time urgent need of, I don't know, like repairing their water heater or something. So they will help out seniors in Northglenn with some funds if that's needed. So if anybody, of anybody who needs some kind of assistance like that, just contact the Northglenn Senior Organization. And then they also had their senior chili cook-off, and I want to thank the members of the police department to be judges who were judges there. That was a very wonderful event, very good community building event. 2 ribbon cuttings, one on January 22nd for Motive Works Auto, and then the Georgian's Kitchen, that was on January 29th, and encourage everybody to visit our own businesses in our own community, because that helps everyone out. Also, January 27th, the Dice Board met this year and elected officers. Ryan Easterlin Babin is the chair, and Ann Navarre is the vice chair. So I look forward to working with them through the rest of the year. Wanted to thank staff for the wonderful council team building that we did. Learned wonderful things about new, especially our new members, but also we did our, like an orientation, a review of responsibilities of city council members and that kind of thing. So it was very helpful. And then congratulations to Megan Burns for her positions with National League of Cities and also being brave enough to present at CML again. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the residents that came and spoke their concerns. Obviously, as you heard through the presentation, we are taking this matter very seriously. And I personally am, as this really is in Ward 3. And so we will continue to work hand in glove with you all to figure out how we can get across the finish line with a satisfactory result. On a lighter note, I am known within the days as being a party crasher. And so I crashed 2 subcommittee and board meetings. One was the Planning Commission, so I thank you for allowing me to do that. Obviously, I'm really motivated by growth and learning, and it was really nice to get a preview. I'm not going to share it with the rest of the days. You'll get it eventually of the Area 36. Section 36. I call it Area 36. I don't know why. It's like Area 51. But I can assure you we do not have any aliens or advanced technologies there. Yeah. Okay, so the second thing that I crashed was the Northglenn Youth Council, and that was really nice. I know you were busy, but always important to figure out how do you engage citizens irregardless of age, and it was really encouraging to see people that are high school age folk who really want to drive change in our society. So that was really, for me, a nice booster and a reaffirmation in our country that, you know, residents and people really do care. And so that would be the message that I would like to carry is, you know, continue to come out and participate in your government, whether it's speaking at public forums or joining boards and commissions. So very important. One other event that I did crash, and I guess this is not a paid public announcement, but the ARC of Adams County provides resources for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So they actually had a tax preparation workshop last week. And then also they do provide adult services for the elderly. So these are things that are happening in your community, and it's not even necessarily the city of Northglenn. It's other non-governmental partners that work together with us. And I think that's also something that we need to continue to highlight and beat the drum on. Lastly, I do want to thank the mayor for the proclamation of Hearthy Help Month. I guess is how you call it. I guess I should have wore red tonight. I will tell you that my mom for many years was a Silver Sneaker member, so it was good to see Karen and other members of the Silver Sneaker team. It brought back some very nice memories for me, memories of joy. So thank you again.
Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, thank you, Councilmember Kondo, for attending the Youth Commission. I was unable to attend, and part of my other world is I'm a principal at an Adams 12 school, and while it isn't a Northglenn school, it is an Adams 12 school, and over the break we had a fire in our building. And so that has caused us a few more hours of work than I had anticipated. So thank you so much. And I think just with that, I always say to our students, you know, we're not only educating them for today, but we're educating the leaders of tomorrow. And so it is really important, and I'm glad that we have that Youth Commission here for us. I also attended the team building event and the council retreat. And again, thank you to staff and everyone who helped put that on. We were able to review council policy and really ground ourselves in that. And then not only that, but we were able to really take a moment to really learn more about our city that we live in and serve. And so even though I've lived here for most of my life, I think I learned some new things, and it was really fun to not only learn, but to get to know each other a little bit better. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'll start by saying my condolences to the family of Jason Marujo as well. Very tragic event, only 14 years old. Like, let's pay attention, people. Let's do better. and especially fleeing from the scene was an awful thing to happen. So I also attended, of course, the City Council retreat, and it was wonderful. I also learned a lot of new things, visited some places in the city that I hadn't visited before, and as was mentioned, it's just really great to kind of hang out with your fellow council members and learn a little bit more about, what motivates them, what makes them tick, all that good stuff, why we serve. So thank you to staff and the mayor for putting on a really great retreat. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And then, let's see, Councilmember Burns reported out on the legislative committee, so I won't repeat that. I did attend a Providing Diverse Housing Solutions in Adams County through AC Rep luncheon, and Councilmember Kondo was there, as well as our Director of Economic Development, Allison Moding. Some interesting guest speakers. We had Peter Lafari, who's the CEO of Maker Housing. Chris Russell, who's a Thornton council member, also was a panelist, and I didn't realize he was also a real estate agent, so he provided that perspective between elected official and the real estate market. And then Heidi Mazurek, I probably botched her name, who's the president of Gage Land Development, and she talked about market level housing. I will say the biggest thing that there were a lot of interesting things that came out of that conversation. Thornton obviously is very different from us. They're not landlocked like we are, so lots of opportunities for housing. One thing I did take away is I would love to see some of these housing opportunities that Peter Lafari was talking about, Maker Housing does, just because it's hard to visualize some of those when they speak about it. So that's just something maybe AC Rep might be doing, is like, hey, this is what a green court means, or what it would look like, and so forth. So interesting conversations there. And let's see, lots of good stuff. I had some conversations with all of them afterwards as well. Then kind of in line with Councilmember Burns, I'll just end with also got newly appointed by the president of NLC to the Public Safety and Crime Prevention Federal Advocacy Committee. So I'm pretty happy about that. This committee focuses on critical public safety policies facing local governments, including disaster preparedness, recovery, community-oriented policing, violence prevention, emergency communications, and federal grant programs that support first responders. Mental health is a big discussion that we've been having for first responders and supporting them. And then AI and technology, because technology, flock cameras, all the things we've been hearing about. So I'm very excited about that, as well as continuing on a couple other committees, and I believe we're going to have a whole press release on that, so I won't say more about that. And then I also have something in the top secret works with CML for a presentation. It's going to be a different thing, so I will report more on that once I have something solidified and dates for that. But that's about it. I'm good. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, I have a couple of things tonight. Councilmember Severs, if you need to go, we will not question that. I'm very impressed that you're here. That 5 days is not very long. So please make sure you rest tomorrow.
I'm doing nothing but resting after.
Good. Okay. Just take care of yourself. A couple things. I want to congratulate both Councilmember Burns and the Mayor Pro Tem for their just engagement at the national level. And I'm not sure if our residents truly appreciate what a big deal that is. It is a big deal. Our council is very active in the state with CML and also NLC, and you guys should be really proud of that. So congratulations. Couple things that I wanted to talk through. I mean, I've had some meetings, Metro Mayor's Caucus. I was reappointed. The position on the Mile High Flood District is a governor's appointed position, so I was reappointed to that. And I had mentioned to City Clerk Small that I wasn't sure about that, so now I'm back in the loop there. And I do like working with the Mile High Flood District. They're very helpful, and it's good work in the state. Team building was so much fun, and so I'm really glad that everyone enjoyed it. to share a little bit with the residents, we did take a day to get to know each other and to get to know the city a little bit. Our theme was Mission Possible, which is very appropriate for right now, right? It's all about perseverance and grit and getting it done. And so that's our theme for our council right now. And it was a great time, and I really appreciated everyone's participation. Let's see, 2 things I want to, really quickly, just a small reminder to stay engaged in the elections that are coming up. I had the opportunity to welcome Senator Bennett to Northglenn on Saturday. As the mayor, I just wanted to introduce him at his meet and greet, as I would any candidate that comes here. And he's running for governor. It was interesting. There were a lot of residents there, but my message is not, vote for Bennett. My message is stay engaged. Investigate the candidates. Make sure you're making an informed decision, because we have a lot of people running for governor, and I think it's important that we make the right decision as a state. And so a lot of what we were talking about earlier, it was mentioned multiple times that, the person in that governor's seat does have power over what happens in our cities. And so just be informed. It was an interesting afternoon for me. He is obviously our senator, and so he shared some interesting things that are happening at the federal level as well. Really quickly, I have a couple of asks for council. The first one is, it was probably too long ago, but it's been a couple weeks where we had a business owner come and talk about the natural medicine limitations that we have, and we never really followed up on that conversation. And so really, this is just a request. Do we have interest in opening that conversation in response to the concerns that were brought forward? So just reopening the conversation. Yes, we're okay with that? So can we put that on the agenda again to talk about the specific changes that were requested?
Yes, Mayor, one point of clarification. As part of that conversation, does council want staff to bring forward a draft ordinance of what the amendments would need to look like?
I think that would be great, because you did hear the request from the speaker, so thank you.
And I guess my request is geared only towards the speaker or citywide? Because
citywide.
there are some issues that are related to distance, which would apply citywide. There are others that relate to things like hours that are less, that are more, I guess, business specific as opposed to locational.
So I think instead of talking about it tonight, I think we want to open the conversation, so it might be a yes and. Okay.
That helps.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then the second one is kind of a fun thing. So I don't know if anyone has heard of Longer Tables, but it's an amazing organization. And Councilmember Leidy and I were fortunate to attend the Mile High Longer Tables event this summer. And it was really inspiring, and it was very fun, all about building community. And then I stole their idea, and I did it at my school last Friday, and it was probably the coolest thing we've ever done. So 300 of us all had a meal at exactly the same time. And the intent is around building connections and community and a sense of belonging. And a lot of those are the similar values to the city of Northglenn. Littleton hosted a Longer Tables event in September, and I was just wondering if we had any interest or support for hosting one in Northglenn. Yeah.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
I just want to say that the DICE board has discussed this in the past, so I know we would love to support that. Thank you.
Yay. Okay. So maybe I got a lot of thumbs up, so we can have that conversation maybe?
I was going to ask for clarification, Mayor. Would
Yes,
you like
please.
us to bring back an outline of what it could look like
Sure.
for council to react to?
That'd be great.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. That is all I have. City Clerk Small, how are you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm doing well. Just want to quickly provide an update. The City Clerk's office is excited to open City Hall this Saturday for our first Passport Day event of the year. If folks are looking for a passport appointment and they go online, they might not see an available time. So I would ask everyone to please give us a phone call at 303-450-8756. We will have a staff of 5 on hand, so we will try to do everything to fit anybody in that day so that we can get as many customers taken care of on the weekend as possible. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. City Manager Guyer?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 updates for council this evening. I attended the Family Justice Center Steering Committee virtually this morning. 2 things to share with you from that meeting. The first is the standing up of the temporary facility at the Adams County Health and Human Services building is on track to open hopefully late Q3, early Q4 of this year, meaning September, October. Additionally, DA Mason provided an update that they're going to be holding a second round of interviews for the position of executive director. They received 76 applicants and invited 11 to 12 individuals to interview. They interviewed 9 individuals, they invited about 12. And so now they're moving forward with a second round of interviews with 4 finalists. So more to come on an announcement in the short term on that front. The other exciting thing I have to share with council is our graphic designer, John Eisel, has created our own Northglenn sesquicentiennial.
Nice job.
Not that fast, but I'm working on it, okay? Not as fast as Michael Stricker. So I wanted to share the logo that he has put together and just get a thumbs up from council that you love it. And if you do love this, then we'll move forward with applying it to prototypes of banners that we plan to bring to council on March 2nd.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Are we going to have variations of this for different banners, or are all the banners going to be exactly the same?
We will likely have variations.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I haven't seen any mock-ups. John's working on his creative
This is super cool.
juices. So this is the first point
I don't know
or
if we can
source of
show it.
inspiration.
Joe, look at this. It's very cool.
Okay, so good on that front?
I love it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, City Attorney Hoffman?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm not sure how to beat that, but I do have some good news as well. About 2 years ago, the city partnered with a couple of other communities, Morrison, Arvada, Aurora, Centennial, and Wheat Ridge, in a case in front of the PUC about whether CDOT could charge Northglenn for streetlights located on I-25. CDOT had been attempting to charge Northglenn for many years, and unlike other communities, Northglenn refused to pay. And ultimately, the PUC upheld the decision that there was not the authority to charge municipalities for streetlights on the interstate. And the decision has been is now final. It was not appealed by either CDOT or XL. So it is definitely a win in the column of the municipalities that have interstates traversing through them.
Yay, great. Thank you. All right, up next is the financial report, December 2025 update. Our Deputy City Manager Loveland is here to present.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're trying some new stuff today, so we'll see how that goes. So fourth quarter financial update. Just want to preface this. This is not our final numbers for the year. It is through December. This is sales tax collected through November. And so we'll get through this, but just know that this is kind of the where we're ending the year, we're going through the accrual piece of our end of year process, getting ready for audit and whatnot. So these numbers will change, and some of them have changed already. But quick update on sales and use tax. So this is again through November collections. We're down 2%, so a total of $27.3 million versus 27.9 at this time last year. At this time last year, we were up 4.4%. So buried in this number a little bit, food tax is actually up 2.2% through November. And then auto use tax is down 1.8%. Those are two of the larger ones. We'll talk about marijuana tax in a moment. You'll notice that we did get a clicker that you can see on the screen. So that's exciting news. So you can see 2025, this is actually a big deal. It's been like 15 months in the making. So here we are in 2025 for November. We were down a fair amount. Do have 2025 December numbers, and unfortunately December was not good. It was actually the worst. We don't have it showing on this graph yet, but it was the worst month of the year in a year-over-year comparison, setting us back closer to like 2022 numbers as far as sales in December. We're bringing forward a conversation and how that impacts us on March 2nd. So there'll be more detail on kind of more finalized numbers and then what those impacts are. But I wanted to bring that to light while I'm here today. In the packet that you all have, we look at the geographic areas. I think that's on page 11. The majority of those are continuing to be down. East Lake, Washington East are up because they have new businesses. So that's when you think of East Lake, think of Canes and Dutch Bros. The Washington Point area where Walgreens is. Beltrans is doing very well. There's a new gas station there as well. And then we do have positive growth on the online sales, what we've been talking about for the last, pretty much the last few years, but that's up about 12%. Carve out the online sales, I've talked about this a few times. The brick and mortar is down a little over 6% year over year, so money's still being spent at a slower pace, and we're seeing those impacts in sales and use tax. Again, for this quarterly presentation, we show the dotted line there of what 2025 marijuana tax is doing. It's down 12.7%. That continued that same trend in December. Now we do have one business closed, but then also we're just seeing less revenue. In that category, as you can see, 2024 number was a little jagged. That was just the timing of remittances coming in, but you will see in 2021 after kind of a steep increase, and then just everything year after year has slowly started to level off or decrease. So the first fund, this is a reminder that each of these funds I'm going to go over kind of operate as their own little business unit, or own business, not really a business unit, but its own business. So the general fund revenue total at this time is $34.6 million, total expenditures of $38.8. On the right-hand portion of the screen, you can see the collection and spending rate. So total revenues collected about 89% or 90% through this point in the year. That's normal. We do have a lot of sales that happen in December. So we do see an increase in revenues at that point. You can see where we are as compared to budget. I'll show you some OpenGov information when I'm done with this that kind of shows you some of the catch up from the December investments. It's more of a apples to apples comparison when we're comparing 12 months of the budget versus 12 months of revenue. Next is the Conservation Trust Fund. You can find some details on the expenditures. This starting on page 19 of the detailed report. But total revenues are in line with what was budgeted. Those are lottery proceeds that are collected through the Conservation Trust Fund. And then you can see the project expenses in the detail. Similarly, the Capital Projects Fund total revenue is at $9.4 million, total expenditures of $3.7. Other financing sources and uses, that's actually our debt service that we have on the Justice Center and Recreation Center. So that totals principal and interest payments of around $4.1 million annually, and that's what makes up that line item. In our water fund, you'll see total revenues of just under $15 million, total expenditures of $8.5 million. That user charges and fee line item, that's really the collection from water users. Those are down, consumption's down 5.3% through December. You'll see operationally on the expenditures, personnel, purchase services, supplies, equipment, all of those are in line with the budget, as were the other funds that I had previously mentioned. Next, the wastewater fund, total revenues of just under $6.6 million and total expenditures of just under $4 million. Again, you'll see similar collection distribution of 90 to 95% as normal. And then on the expenditure side, all of those expenditures falling in line with what was expected in the budget. Our stormwater fund revenues, or the fees collected from businesses and residents, $487,430, and total expenditures of $425,512. Again, within the budget and what's expected for the year. And then the last fund is the sanitation fund. You'll see revenues of just under $2 million in line with the budget, and expenditures of $2.7 million. Part of the not hitting the expenditure total is just the purchase of equipment and when we're going to receive delivery of vehicles, which are $300,000-$400,000 investments. So you'll see that as a spending less than a budget, but those orders are in place, they're just on their way. So that was a quick review of those things, but sales tax specifically, if we break out use tax, is down 1.7%. General fund revenue, unfortunately, down 3.4%. And you can see some other elements of kind of the revenue in the general fund and how those break down. And then the operating expenditures across all funds, as mentioned, were in line. At the bottom of this page, on a quarterly basis, we always refer to, if you want more information, go to the northglennco.opengov.com. We have actually never gone there at a meeting, and so I am going to go there now and highlight just some of the details that we have that are available for residents to explore, the whole world to explore. It's not those bubbles. That screensaver was quick. So just a few things that I want to point out. Here's the landing page, kind of information that we get to. I would encourage folks to explore all of these different reports, annual, current year. We do identify transactions. We've been doing this since 2015, a decade or more. We've had this site, and so I just want to encourage people to go to it, use it, explore, get information if they so desire. This first report that I have pulled up provides a visualization that you can drill down and get more information on. I'm not going to do that at the moment, but I'm going to scroll down to show this is basically the general fund report that I just presented. in a summary format. And so you can see total revenues in the general fund updated this morning. So this updates daily. So when we're making transactions and accruals and writing checks and so on and so forth, this is real time. The report that I provided is at a point in time where the packet's due. We're doing this 2 weeks ago, and so that's the information that you're seeing. So there's some changes to things like taxes and revenues and other things that we have accruals for. One thing that I want to point out that's important is when you see these little carrots, I don't know if they're really called carrots, triangles, whatever, you can drill down and find more information and get to more of kind of a line item detail of the reports. This tends to be pretty tedious to present in a static report when we're trying to provide kind of high level policymaking information, but this information is out there for everyone. So you can see sales tax specifically, property tax, use tax. We're taking a look at 2025 budget, where we're at actual, the variance. This is the variance actual to budget. So we can move down and see how many line items make up tax. And we can take a look at user charges and fees. And we can see participation fees. You know, we make reference to this quite a bit in our monthly report, and try to highlight kind of some of the bigger line items, if you will. So participation fees, this is mostly strictly the recreation center. So you can see they had a positive year in 2025. Budget was 1.65 million. Total revenue just under 1.8, so up 8.76%. So this information, again, is out there. We can go down to the smallest of line items for VIN inspections and see we budgeted $250 and collected $324. I will not bore everyone with going through all of the revenue details, but that is out there and available at all times. Then on the expense side of things, we can take a look at like our personnel line item, budget of 28.4 million and spent 27.8. So we were within 1.7% of that budget for personnel. Other categories of interest, supplies, non-capital, we can take a look at our utility bills, gas and electricity, take a look at motor vehicle fuels and what have you. Have another tab. So if you did want to drill down into the revenues, you can click on this revenues graph, and it will take you to a new graph that kind of breaks down and shows you what percentage of revenues are in each category. And then, again, all of that information is broken down. Do the same thing on the expenditure side and get an illustration of, you know, how much of our budget specific to the general fund is related to personnel, purchase services. Click on any of these and you can drill down. Feel free to explore. You can't break it. You might get frustrated and lost. And if you do, you can hit reset or just go back to the beginning of the reporting. And then the last thing that I wanted to show, as I mentioned to start, you know, each of the funds really operates as its own business. And then we talk about the city as a whole, kind of we roll all of that together to get kind of a bigger perspective. Most of that is just for conversation's sake, not necessarily this fund does the, you know, not broken down by business. But if you do, there's an opportunity to take a look at all of our revenues and expenditures across all funds. And you see the number gets bigger because we have several funds, user charges and fees, you know, $22 million and that goes across our water, sewer, trash, stormwater funds, along with what's in the general fund. One last note I wanted to share is on the page, if you scroll down to views, we have preset reports that are, again, updated daily that talk about kind of just where we are budget to actual on different funds. We actually have all of the monthly reports set up in the system already for each of the funds. We also have, revenues by type or expenditures if you want to get to the place quicker than drilling down and kind of navigating that way. And I'm so sorry I've had my head turned to the left the whole time, and I can see the same thing over here, so apologies for ignoring this side of the room for a while. I'll turn now. So anyway, just wanted to provide that information. If you do want to look at transactions, you can click here to see transactions, and those are all the transactions that the city has. Again, since 2015. So anyway, any questions on that? Or I think we're going to work towards setting up OpenGov has a stories page that we can create and work through monthly financials in a different way. So we're going to work on that for the next few months and see how we can use this to be a little bit more dynamic in what we're presenting and provide a little bit more of a visual on what we're doing, but that's going to take a little bit of time to sort through exactly what that'll look like. But I wanted to share that for council as well as the residents and anyone that's watching. So with that, I will
thanks.
stop.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Deputy City Manager Loveland. I think, so you already have these like tabs pre-populated, but thank you so much for doing that. But for anyone who is newly going to the website, there is a nifty pop-up that shows you how to use everything as well. And you can like run through their like tutorial. Not that yours wasn't just as amazing, but if you forget, there's a really nice tool that helps you like find everything and like how to use everything and like sort of what does this data mean, which I think is helpful. Thanks.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Deputy City Manager Loveland. So although all the numbers aren't exactly finalized, but the department ones are more or less finalized, like city manager, city clerk, human resources. Are those finalized, or is there more money not accounted for?
We still may be working through some accruals, so I would say that nothing that's in OpenGov right now. It's more updated than the packet material that was provided, but I wouldn't say any of that's final.
Would you say it's 99% accurate or like 90% accurate?
Closer to 99 than 90, but still in progress.
So there you go. I want to give you the city staff props, city manager, city clerk, everyone, the police department. Like I'm seeing under budget for like $2.5 million. So there's always a lot of conversations about what we can and can't control and what our budget is and isn't and where it's going and where it's not. But I see a city staff that's paying attention to changing environments, and they're, if you ever run a business, sometimes you have to hold tight because you never know what the end of the year is going to bring, but also you can see the sales tax down, marijuana tax down. So even though it's different categories and it's not going to come out of the same fund, it is overall a budget. And if the city staff is under around $2.5 million, even if it changes a few $100,000, that's a great job. And that's something we can control. So I just want to give everyone props on that. And then this information is available for everyone. You can go down to every P card purchase. So if you ever have a question about what's being spent and why, you can literally look it up. And I know other cities have gotten props for opening this type of clarity for residents. And like Deputy City Manager said, it's been going on for a decade because we're not hiding anything. There's nothing to hide. We're operating like a smart city, and we want to make it clear that anyone has questions, you can always just ask. Or you can go to YouGov and the website and look it up because there's nothing to hide. So there's no issues. Thanks.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for presenting this yet again. And I'm really impressed that we've done it for more than a decade. I would assume that we've done it longer than Westy. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah. I believe so. I'm not keeping track of everybody else. I'm keeping track of me.
Gotcha.
But yes, we were one of the first folks for this tool specifically
Gotcha.
in the state.
So I'd like to go back real quick here, if you don't mind, because I noticed in the capital expenses that some capital expenditure, for the capital improvements fund, it was only 24% of budget spend for the year. And I just went down to the detailed list there on page 21, and it looks like things like Civic Center Phase 2, yep, I got that. But the community center bridge and the streets program, those look like those were underspends that were fairly large. Are those just things that are driven by schedule, weather, availability of materials and things like that? And do those costs accrue into 2026?
So both of those things you mentioned are impactful to the timing of when we're able to get projects done.
Yes.
Those funds will roll over. We'll do kind of a true up of the 2026 budget once we get these numbers finalized in the next month or so. So we'll make adjustments to what we didn't spend or get spent and put those dollars back into those same programs.
Okay. And I'm assuming the same would go for the water fund. Some underspends there for, I think it's capital outlays. Same thing, same story,
thing,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. We tend to budget for the entire project. Once we're like, hey, we're going to do project X, and it's going to be a $2 million project, we'll budget for it today, like in 2025, knowing that it might be a year-long process to design. So that those are other reasons why we may underspend certain line items, is because we're going through that process. Then there's the bid process and then the implementation. So we know that some of those will take a while. And so we do typically see underspending in those project areas just because we're budgeting the whole project right up front, knowing that it's going to take
Multiple years.
multiple years.
Check. Okay. My last question, and while you were speaking, I did go to opengov.com, and obviously no login required. It's great. I just recall a couple weeks ago hearing a person speak in public saying debt is bad. And I'm just curious, is there a dashboard that we have in opengov.com that kind of shows how much debt we have and what our debt repayments are?
You know, we don't have that out there. We did for a while, had the balance sheet. It was kind of clunky, but that is something that we could easily add to just show, again, like just a simple report that we could click on to show what's out there.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
happy to do that.
If it's not too heavy of a lift for staff, I'd like to be able to have that dashboard available. If that's okay. And with that cough punctuating I'm going to end my comments.
Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank you so much for this. I think this is a really great visual, especially for those visual learners out there, and I think it'll really give a good perspective to our residents and also us on council. So I really appreciate this. This is nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Looks great. Moving to the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I do not have the vote button when I reset my computer. I vote yes.
Okay. All righty. I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Yeah, well, I don't know where it is after that, but. All right, thank you. Moving to resolutions, we have one tonight, CR 45. Will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing a youth at-large member to the Community Co-Production Policing Advisory Board of the City of Northglenn, Colorado.
Motion to approve.
All right, I would like to invite Matthew Phillip forward. Please come to the podium, introduce yourself. Thank you for staying. Tell us about you and why you're interested in serving in this way.
Hello, my name is Matthew Phillip. I am in Ward 4. I'm a dedicated student who values leadership, collaboration, and community involvement. I enjoy contributing ideas, listening to different perspectives, and working with others to find practical solutions. I'm interested in being a part of council because I care about making our school/community a more supportive and inclusive place for everyone. I'm excited to learn, contribute, and grow through this role. I guess away from the script, I like politics. I've liked it for a while. I think this is a good opportunity for me to get involved in my community, seeing as I moved here about 3 years ago from Texas. And, you know, I wasn't really involved back then in Texas and stuff, but I think this is a good opportunity for me, like I said, to get more involved. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for hanging out for so long. I hope this was thrilling for you. And just thank you so much for stepping up and for being a part of this community. I think you can tell, like, we care so deeply about this community and we do so much work, and we're so excited to have you. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Leidy?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for sitting through this. You've been here a while. I think I walked in with your family, so I was like, oh, hey, I know you guys. You've been here a really long time. Oh, my goodness. I also wanted to say thank you so much for taking initiative and wanting to be a part of your community. I'm the youngest member on council, and so it's really important for me that youth is represented, and especially on all of our different advisory boards. And I came from the DICE board. I mention that all the time, but it's so awesome. That was that was my step into really getting into all of this. And so congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just really appreciate the time you're going to dedicate to this. It's always impressive to see somebody who's willing to volunteer. I started on the Community Affairs Board, so you know this is a good way to kind of learn how the city government's going to work, and we hope to see more and more involvement from you. Thank you.
Councilmember Roper?
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for being here. And again, thank you for being a voice for a younger generation, and it's so important. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sievers?
Just want to thank you, Matthew, for showing up and trying to do the work. And welcome from Texas. I just moved from Massachusetts, so we have a similar timeline, and I just joined a board, and then I'm on city council, so hopefully this goes to another part of your life, and you know, thanks for showing up. And community policing is super important, right?
Yeah.
I know that's why we have this board. That's why we have a great chief and deputy chief and police department that want to engage with the community. So it represents the action, represents what the people want. And thanks for stepping up.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nowicki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Phillip, thank you for being here. The mayor and I had the opportunity to interview him, and you know, I look forward to having you as part of the CCPP. I think you'll make a welcome addition. The good news is usually the meetings don't go this long, so we'll be out of here. Sergeant Thibodeau's looking at his watch here. He's part of it, so make sure you shake his hand on the way out. But yeah, we look forward to having you in first meeting tomorrow. So,
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for volunteering to be on this board. This position has been vacant for so long, so I'm so happy to see that there's finally some representation from a youth member. I actually started on this board, the inaugural form of it, back in 2021 before I was on City Council, and I'm also in Ward 4, so if you need anything as a resident, feel free to reach out. But it's a really great board, so I think you're going to do a wonderful job. And they really do need your voice. So thanks for serving.
Thank you.
Well, I will round out the welcome by saying it's nice to see you. We enjoyed your interview, Councilmember Nowicki and I. You're very articulate, and I really look forward to your perspective on this board. So thank you for serving.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Congratulations. Oh, we have to vote. Sorry, not congratulations until we vote. Watch this. Please open the vote.
It's open.
We're all going to be happy in a minute. Yeah, I know.
I will close that vote, and CR 45 passes unanimously.
All right, up next is a discussion item tonight, our community information on immigration and ICE. Chief of Police Jim May will present this item to council. Hi.
Okay. Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've worked for the city of Northglenn for almost 34 years, and I've been honored to serve as your chief for nearly 15. Of those years, I would not be standing here today if it weren't for my belief in community policing. Not as a buzzword, but a daily practice and an expectation of this department. Everything I'm going to say tonight flows from one core responsibility: providing public safety for all residents of Northglenn. Community trust is essential to effective policing. We cannot do our jobs without the help, cooperation, and support of our residents. People must feel safe calling 911, reporting crime, or cooperating as witnesses without fear that asking for help will result in unrelated consequences. That trust did not happen by accident. It was built deliberately over decades through accountability, transparency, and treating every person with dignity and respect. I've led this department through some of the most difficult periods in modern policing. Ferguson, the murder of George Floyd, the pandemic, and our own critical incident on Franklin Way. Each time, the way we got through it was the same: accountability, transparency, and a relentless focus on our mission of providing excellent public safety. We are now facing another national moment that brings fear and uncertainty. I understand those concerns, and it is our responsibility to lead with clarity and calm. The Northglenn Police Department does not enforce civil immigration law. That is not our role and is not permitted under Colorado law. Our mission is local public safety, responding to emergencies, preventing crime, and protecting everyone who lives, works, and visits our city. No one should fear immigration-related consequences for reporting crime and calling for help or cooperating with the police. At the same time, it is important to be very clear: the Northglenn Police Department does not interfere with or obstruct federal law enforcement. Federal agencies have their own authority and responsibilities. However, Colorado law places clear limits on what local law enforcement can do in civil immigration matters. Those limits prohibit detentions based solely on immigration status, restrict information sharing, and prevent local police from assisting in civil immigration enforcement without proper judicial authority. That means that they have a warrant with probable cause signed by the judge. Tonight, I want to reaffirm that the Northglenn Police Department remains focused on what we do best: providing excellent public safety, being accountable and transparent, and treating all residents with dignity and respect. That approach has served this city well for decades, and it will continue to guide us forward, even in challenging times. I'm proud of this department, proud of the community partnerships and trust we have built, and confident that staying true to our mission is the best way to keep our community safe. I know that you all received the council memo and some of the things that we listed on our website. So with this, I have no doubt that you guys probably have some questions for me.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, thank you for being here. DC, thank you. So with regard to the information that's going to go out, again, Northglenn has a sizable Latino Hispanic population. Will this information also be available to them in Spanish as well?
I believe it is on Spanish. We have it in Spanish already, but I'll double check, make sure that is on our website.
Okay, if we could please make sure that happens.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief, for being here. Just like to take a quick breath. You know, this is sometimes a topic that gets people hot and bothered, for lack of better words. I just want to ask a few questions. So, the Northglenn Police Department has no intention on joining the 287 Golf program and signing the MOU or Memorandum of Understanding with ICE, correct?
That's correct.
And what that program is basically an agreement that you do with ICE or DHS, right? So we wouldn't join the task force model, which basically says we assist ICE in federal immigration. And we don't have a jail or prison in Northglenn, so we can't work in the jail enforcement model, which is another agreement with federal and local. Currently, ICE has about 1,379 participating law enforcement agencies across the country, and only one is in the state of Colorado from ICE's own website. It's in Teller County, west of Colorado Springs in the mountains. So it's not like we're in a different situation than 99.9% of Colorado. The other thing I just want to point out, for people's knowledge, and again, this information is going out because our city staff, our police department want everyone to be at least aware. There's also state limitations on access to non-public areas, especially arresting individuals for civil immigration violations while in courthouses or during court proceedings. This goes for leaving and coming to court proceedings. So staging up and snatching people from court hearings specifically that they're showing up to follow the law is not lawful in Colorado. You've seen videos elsewhere in the country, can't speak to their state and their laws, but here it's not, it would be illegal. But we don't want to force anyone to escalate the situation, right? You don't have to agree, I don't agree, but we're not doing force on force stopping of incidents, right? Document, and the rest will be done with attorneys and the law. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Chief DC. Staff is here tonight for putting this together. I think having clear communication about this topic right now is so important to help combat mis and disinformation, and just like having a very clear set of standards of where we are right now. I also really think it's important to, and thank you so much for your words beforehand. We hadn't heard any of, I didn't know he was going to say this beautiful speech, so I was digesting for a while. And I really want to talk about your commitment to community policing. It's something that I immediately was drawn to about Northglenn and your approach to how we work with our community. And I think this approach of putting our residents, all of our residents first and foremost, like we are Northglenn first, is so important. And so I really want to thank you for that. And I really appreciate the strong communications and like constantly putting out this information so to help continue to build that trust with our residents. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Yes, I want to echo comments that we've already heard. I think it is really important to get this out to our residents. This is a really difficult time because we and the values of our city and everybody on the council here, I mean, we have differences, but we do have some common values, and we want to communicate that to our residents. And one of the big ones is safety, public safety, and that includes everyone, all walks of life, all kinds of people. And so I appreciate that this is being spelled out, because there are some things that as a city we can't control. I mean, there's different levels of government, and we can take a stand on our values, but sometimes that comes into conflict with at the federal level, and we're just going to do our best to keep everyone safe. I just want to thank you for your attitude and approach to that, and I want all our residents to know that that is what we're working on. Thank you.
Councilmember Leidy?
Thank you. I want to echo what everyone has said. You guys are amazing. You know how I support you guys. I just had a few questions. Recently, I think it was this past weekend, the Denver police chief came out and said that those officers would intervene if there was excessive force by ICE agents in Denver. Then I was looking at our little discussion things, and it says that if ICE operates in Northglenn, our role is limited to public safety. Are you aware of what was said by the Denver police chief? Is that something that you guys are working
Chief
like
White
together?
and I went to college together, so yeah, actually that was forward to me, so that ages me a little bit. And I think the big thing is, if, for our responsibility under state law, that we do report, right? The other part, especially with federal agencies, this where, probably, the attorney in the room might, give his perspective. But going in and saying we see something, they're not going to notify. We have not been notified of any. I am unaware of any ICE operation that has happened in Northglenn, right? I think the last federal agency that came through was Councilman Burns reported when we responded over there. So they're not going to reach out to us and tell us. It's something that most likely residents will call, will show up, and what we capture, right? I think the big thing, Councilman Severs, you said it perfectly. We're there we have our body cams, so we're there to document. And if officers see what they believe looks like excessive force, what that looks like, it'll come back, and that reporting will be documented and sent to our district attorney, and if he elevates it to the state attorney's office, right? So that's how that will be captured. Reporting, intervening, that's the, where, that's that line, right? If we're seeing something and they're doing something, say it's a fight or whatever, we have no idea what transpired. I think that's the hardest part to come through. So let me elevate that to the next level. I think concerns about what happens if we have a situation where an ICE agent kills someone in Northglenn, right? I would hope, because that's a homicide, it's a crime scene. Even when we're involved in an officer-involved shooting, we treat that as a crime scene. And all we do is we secure it, and then we contact the critical incident team with Adams County, talk to the DA, and then it's investigated by several agencies that come out and do the investigation. If that happens in Northglenn, I would totally suggest that we have this team available, and if they offer it to them that they can use it, I think that would be good, where they can contact the district attorney, they can stand up that team, and we can do kind of like a collaborative investigation. Unfortunately, seeing what happened in Minneapolis, I don't see them collaborating, but I think for us, offering it up and making sure, hey, this is how, because it's best practices, how we do things. So we can suggest, we don't know if they will do it. But to answer your question on that, we will document and report that for sure.
And then I have a follow-up question. Is there, just knowing that we are the people that kind of, I don't know how to say it right. Is there anything that we can do for you to make sure that your officers know that we still support you and we're not just throwing you to the wind?
I thought about that, I appreciate the question. I would love to keep ICE out of our neighborhoods and trying to figure that out. It's above my level. I think, it's again at the state and everything else. What can we do to negotiate with the feds on how we can, keep this enforcement from, I definitely don't want a Minneapolis. I definitely don't want a Chicago and how this is turning out. So we need to make it safe for everybody, even the, the federal agents that are out here. I don't want to see them getting hurt either, right? So tensions are high. My goal as police chief is make sure that we focus on public safety, calm, bring that calm to the storm. Really enforce, definitely our residents, I encourage them, if they want to protest peacefully. We've had a lot of experience dealing with protests here in Northglenn, all the way back to George Floyd, right? I think I'm the first chief in Northglenn history that had to deal, the mayor was there with me and everything, dealing with protests. But the way you engage is that communication. You find out who the organizers are, you find out, and we did that over Safe Street Halloween. We had a protest and we're like, hey, we're gonna have a bunch of kids coming in. And they were super cooperative, right? And we have protests almost weekly down there off of Melody. And it's getting to know the people. I think that's super important. So it's peaceful. We do not want that to escalate into violence at all, especially in our community. I hope that answers your question.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to actually build off of my ward mate's line of questioning here, because I think what a lot of people are seeing and not understanding about like what's happening in Minneapolis is like, one of their residents was murdered and their police department was at a loss of what they could do. And I think like as a council, well, I will not speak for everyone, as someone who sits on a city council and similar to, Minneapolis, like that was a hard pill to swallow because, something had happened to one of our residents and we couldn't really do anything about it. And so I think, thank you for clarifying of your process of, this will never happen.
Yeah, and it's it's a homicide, right? So we're investigating, it's not up to us if it's a justified or not, right? That's up to our district attorney and he makes the decision on those cases. I'm not sure at the federal level who makes that decision on justified or not justified. I would assume someone in the FBI. But again, I'd have to get back to you on there. Again, that federal law enforcement's a lot different than local law enforcement.
Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for this. I think it really provides clarity for us, but also for our residents, so thank you for that. One thing that I've always appreciated about our police department is your commitment to not only safety, but honoring the dignity of everyone. And I've seen that on ride-alongs. I've seen that firsthand. And so thank you for continuing that commitment.
Thanks, Joe.
Councilmember Sievers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm up again. Sorry, there's a lot to think about in regards to, this situation. I will just remind folks that no one here is against law enforcement. We all love our law enforcement officers, first responders. However, again, when things change and things become different, you have to acknowledge the changes. It's not always been this way, okay? So ICE and DHS is more or less running a counterinsurgency situation. They're treating populations of cities like an occupying force. So and they're just moving throughout, and then whoever gets in the way could die or could be left alone. And so there's anxiety when whole cities, again, just to reiterate, Minneapolis police have about 600 police, okay? They had over 3,000 federal forces. So reports on the ground are like people aren't moving, people aren't going to have a baby in a hospital. Like that's not normal. So, and again, administrative warrants are not signed by a judge. They're filled out in the car. Just keep that in mind. Going in houses, I'm sorry, that's not, without a judicial warrant is not legal. So even though an agent, I don't even like to call them law enforcement, an agent is doing that, doesn't mean it's legal. And just because they have a badge doesn't make it legal. There are a lot of things in the past that were illegal or that were legal and now is illegal because of conversations like this. Crime scene investigation is not up for debate. If there is an incident, it needs to be investigated by a third party. So what we saw in Minneapolis is not right. And the last thing I'll state is the Cato Institute just released a study literally like 2 days ago. It's not a left-wing party or institute. They just do data. They just released a 30-year study that immigration and immigrants add more money than they take from government. They pay taxes, they don't get services. So if someone's going to their court hearing, just to reiterate, and they're following the laws, they should not be swept up like a criminal. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief and Deputy Chief, for being here. I just want to say thank you to all our police officers for everything you do and keeping our community safe. And I know that keeping people safe is your priority, and it shows. I really, really appreciate Northglenn's approach to this. I think this was important for us and for our residents because it's clear, it's transparent. This is what we can do, this is what we cannot do. And Councilmember Goff kind of touched on that. You know, there are some things we can't really control that are going on right now, but we can control what we can control in our city. And I know that's exactly what you are all trying to do. And also Councilmember Leidy mentioned, you know, to make sure that you all know that we do support you. We're not throwing you to the wolves or whatever the terminology that she used. And I wrote that down a while ago because I agree with that. You know, I want our police department to know that we do support law enforcement. We do support you, but you're also supporting our community. And that is so incredible. Everybody should take a page out of our book in Northglenn. And you said something, Chief, you know, I think what people have some, you know, some perceptions that aren't quite real, or it's their perception, right? That is what it is. But you mentioned like the unintended consequences or unrelated consequences. If you think about Adams County has one of the highest DV rates, or the highest, it might be the highest in Colorado. And if somebody's afraid to report that, you know, because they are an immigrant, then that's not good for anyone. It's not good for those kids that may get caught up in that cycle. As a Ralston House board member, I've heard, you know, of immigrants being taken advantage of, kids. When you know your family is not going to report, you can think you can get away with a lot more. And unfortunately, unintended consequences are innocent victims. So thank you for this and for this transparency. And then in terms of perceptions too, there seems to be, well, two that I hear a lot, right? If you say anything about what you don't agree with is that one, you don't support law enforcement, you're anti-law. Absolutely not true. And the second thing is that we're not getting the bad guys. You guys are getting the bad guys. And it doesn't matter what their status is. If they're a bad guy, they're getting caught, right? They commit a crime, a rape, a murder. They are going to Adams County Jail. But you will take care of that. And so I think residents need to understand that and not letting anyone with any status just go because they committed a crime, regardless of status. I guess what I'm trying to say, word that a little weird. But I will leave it at that. And also that we can just be kinder to each other. I will say this, as the only Latina represented on this council, and a Puerto Rican, I will use Bad Bunny as an example, whether you like him or not, like the hate that I've gotten because he speaks Spanish, and to have to clarify that, I don't know if you know, but Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. Everyone look up 1917 Jones Act, just for some information. And to have people that I know saying, yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen. Like, this is really, really whacked out, is all I can say. That's a long thing, a long rant to just say thank you.
You
leave it
did
there.
bring up a point that I'd like to address before, Mayor, if that's okay. And I know we have a gentleman that spoke earlier, and I appreciate you coming forward and giving your opinion on it. I just want, but that's another miss. You know, people think, hey, and I just want cooperation with ICE make it safer. And to me, that's kind of misinformation. Public safety depends on trust, like I mentioned earlier. And when people fear calling the police, crimes goes unreported, just like you said. And so we're not safer. Matter of fact, if we keep on track of what we're doing, we have a safer community. So I think that's important just to put out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my turn. So I have a couple thoughts. Again, similar to Councilmember Severs, I needed to just kind of take it in for a minute. Thank you for being you. And as you heard, we support your department. We support what you do. I think for me, this is a repeated conversation because you have made these statements before in council and for our community. And I think that shows consistency of values, right? This is who you are. This is who the department is. This is what you guys stand for. And we appreciate that. I think the question for me is almost the what if, and I would love to not ever have to have a what if scenario. It's very similar when we do lockdown training. We don't want to have a school shooter, but we have to do the training. And this is similar for me. If you look at the national landscape and what's going on in our country, it's not just Minnesota. It's happening in other areas, and it's super concerning. It's increasing the level of anxiety everywhere. And there's been calls for, we're coming after those blue states, right? And so Colorado's on a list somewhere for where they're coming next. And while immigration enforcement has been around for a very long time and has previously been, I would say, somewhat reasonable, what we're seeing right now is not that. And that's what's concerning. So when we think about the violations of people's rights, I mean, the out-and-out murder is a problem, but also the other rights that are being violated every day. And I think what we're also seeing is different cities and agencies across the country, but across Denver, whether it was the Denver Chief of Police or the Aurora Chief of Police, or we know the mayor of New York stood out and said, hey, we're going to intervene. And so what I'm hearing is not intervene. And I'm not saying that's bad. I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because both Denver and Aurora have said we will intervene if there is excessive force. And I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, that Northglenn does not have a statement of we will intervene.
I think when you said perceived, right, I think that, before on that perceived excessive force. If we don't know, just like when it came out on the shootings in Minneapolis, we didn't have the facts and people already jumping to conclusions and everything else. What we need to do is if we show up on something and if it's a perceived, that documentation, everything else. The last thing I want to see our officers do where it's interpreted as obstruction, right? Or interfering with federal law enforcement doing their lawful duties, right? That immigration falls currently under ICE. We are breaking the law. And as chief, I cannot, with good conscience, say to my officers that you're going to intervene or you're going to obstruct federal law enforcement doing their job. I want you to document. I want you to record. I want you to be the best witness possible if that comes to it, and we'll follow those. You mentioned civil rights, right? We don't enforce civil rights. That's done by the courts. Being someone that had, use of force complaints or other things filed on us, it's against the government. So I think Councilman Severs, said it best, like, we take those up that's court. So if someone's saying, hey, you violate my rights, resources available to them to get that started. I think, Corey, do you have any?
I can certainly add if council would like what the legal duties are, although it's frankly, I think the way the chief has characterized it has actually been better, because the duty to intervene can be kind of as the chief characterized it, which is to be present, to be there documenting. However, there's a bunch of laws that actually apply directly to this that indicate that the police actually do not have a duty to intervene in the sense that some may be considering. Under state law, there is no duty to intervene when it is a federal officer that is doing the enforcement of federal law. If a federal officer were enforcing state law, there is a statute that would apply the duty to intervene. But that is not what federal agents are doing. So the statute is clear as it relates to that. And to double down on that a little bit, there is a federal law that says that if you attempt to intervene, you might be violating federal law, in which case we could see a case where a criminal case under federal law was brought against a Northglenn police officer for attempting to intervene in a manner that may violate federal law. So it's tricky. And not only my office, but statewide, we've been having these discussions as among the police legal advisors, and the advice has been fairly consistent statewide about this in terms of what the parameters are of intervention and what you can and can't do. And the bottom line is if a federal officer is enforcing federal law and a Colorado law enforcement officer attempts to intervene more than documenting, they could very well be prosecuted under federal law.
That doesn't make me feel any better. It actually makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
and I understand it's legal, and I understand you guys are following the law. We definitely don't want to put you at risk. However, it feels really icky when you watch the news because the federal law enforcement, they're not acting appropriately. And that's concerning. And it's not just the media. I know a lot of people who are right there in the moment, like watching this live, and it's horrific. And so it's hard. I will say, when I read that Aurora and Denver are committing to intervene if there's excessive force, that makes me feel safer, because I think the world is really fearful of ICE right now, because they're not just targeting the people they set out to target. And so it's just, the world is upside down. And so what's hard is if the world was upside right side up, everything you're saying makes sense to me. But if the world is upside down in Colorado, I feel like we may have to have a different conversation, because it's just different. I mean, everything you're saying makes sense if we're right side up. So that said, I hear what you're saying, but I think that also needs to be clear to residents. And this is okay, the statement that we have so far, but I think we have to add that piece, especially if other chiefs are coming out and saying, we will intervene. You don't have to say we're not going to intervene, but I think you need to define what that is more clearly so that there is understanding, because it's legalese, but I think it's important because we just need that clarification. Second question might be for Corey, but is...
Hey, I'd love to have him keep me out of jail.
That's fair. Second question for Corey is around masked law enforcement. Is that something, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something, I know there's some councils that are having that discussion now. Tell us the law behind that.
There is no ability to enforce those types of laws against federal law enforcement officers enforcing federal law.
Okay, so those councils that are discussing it and possibly even making big proclamations around it, that's just pointless, is what I'm hearing.
That would be my opinion, yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. And maybe we're getting a little off track here, so stop me because we're going to go into the weeds here. And this is kind of a message for Corey. With enforcing federal law, when does that start and when does that stop? Like, what are the boundaries around that?
I can't even begin to answer that on a case-by-case basis. I mean, it is so fact-specific. But basically, they are enforcing federal statutory law. We, in Northglenn, enforce Colorado law and Northglenn ordinances. And sometimes with assistance through things like a task force, sometimes federal law.
Okay.
But federal agents very rarely, and only with some sort of cooperative agreement, would be enforcing Colorado law. And if they were, then we would have the duty to intervene. But if they are talking about enforcing federal statutes, which is what immigration law is, they are enforcing federal law.
So, and you can stop me if this is not correct, but say ICE kind of rolls into your community, are they the minute they roll in, they're enforcing federal law until the minute they roll out, they're in between that time is all federal law?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, and this is maybe to the mayor's point, I would be clear with residents about we will not intervene. I mean, again, I think trusting the residents to kind of decide and to not be wishy-washy about it. Either we will intervene, like Denver and all these other communities are saying, or we will not. And being clear with residents about that. And so that we can then discuss what are the consequences of that.
I think it depends on, define your interpretation of the word intervene. We're saying we will from documentation, all the body cams, the dash cams, the reporting, working with the district attorneys.
Okay.
That's intervention. I think that's where if you are talking about the physical act of me going in the middle of a federal, that's I think where it's getting caught in the weeds.
And that's a great distinction.
So yes, they might be saying that they're going to intervene, but are they saying that they're going to put armed police officers in their cities confronting and putting hands on federal agents? None of them said that. But when we take the term intervene, that's normally where it goes, where we're saying through all of the documentation and all the resources, the different investigatory stuff, the district attorney, that is a form of it. So I think that's the interpretation of the term intervene. What is it you're asking for?
Right.
Because I would be willing to bet after what Corey just said, if you ask those two chiefs of police, after legal guidance, would they order their officers to do that? I think you'd get a different definition of the term intervention.
And I appreciate that delineation because I do think that's really important. Here's what, because I think when most people say intervene, they have again, a police officer is going to step in between, right? So really being specific about what intervention means, and I think Madam Mayor mentioned this. I think, again, being clear about what that means, what that looks like, things like that. Thank you.
So I am going to push back on that definition. If you're truly operating under a different definition of intervene, then you need to say that. Because I mean, look it up. Intervene means to come between as to prevent. That's what the population thinks that means. So if law enforcement uses the word intervene to mean something else, then say that. Because documentation to me is not intervention. Those are totally different things.
And we can at the state level, as Corey just said. We can't at the federal level.
And that's fine. What I'm saying is the word intervene, if it means something differently to you, then you have to say that to residents because in the general population, intervene means to step in the middle to prevent. So if you're not going to do that, then say that. And if you're going to document, then say that. But documentation is not intervention. So I just want to be clear for residents.
And to me, and, yeah, and I get where Deputy Chief Rice was going with that. And I think it was more directed to those chiefs and like, hey, can you guys clarify your stance on this?
Well, and it's out in public perception. If they just see a headline or if they just see an interview, they don't understand what that means.
Because to me, the word intervene, and again, to me, the word intervene is we're intervening in their federal lawful duties, and then that's a criminal violation, obstruction for us.
Yeah,
So
and I
that's the-
hear that. So I think we have to define that for residents, and we have to be clear. And as sad as it makes me, as much as I would like you to step in and not let ICE hurt our residents, if you lawfully cannot do that, then you need to tell people that. And I think that's the lack of clarity that's out there in the media and in the conversations and in the stress level that people have. I mean, it's not going to make people feel better to know that if ICE comes flying in and just barrels into my house and takes me away, you guys are going to be like, oh, well, we documented that. That's scary. And that's what's happening in other places. I'm hoping that we never have that here and we don't have to deal with it, but it's happening in other places. And it's like actually happening.
Yeah, well, I go back to, I'm hoping, that our state officials can get together and come up with some solution to keep ICE off our streets. And I'll go back, and then we could look it up with President Obama, right? He, deported a lot of undocumented workers without these issues. And I think that's something to look at is like, what's happening here when we can, I think in the beginning, and I'll just say in the beginning, with crime, right? If there's someone, but it's picked up at the jail, it's a lot safer for our community if they pick him there rather than being released back into our community where they're going door to door. Because in that, there's a lot of other people. Because for the feds, my opinion is that, immigration violations are immigration violations them, and then they do sweeps and take, and then in the news, there's, you hear about the 5-year-old, you hear about all these other people didn't commit violent crimes. I think, for us, when we arrest a lot of people, and we really don't know what their immigration, because we don't ask, the county jails, who is responsible for that, that's where that information should go. So I am hoping some of those conversations are happening to reduce, like you said, the amount of ICE officers coming into, cities that you said blue cities. The last thing I would do is put a target on our backs where we have so many, because we do not, have the resources to deal with the things that we're seeing in some of those other cities. So that's just my 2 cents. And I think you guys have more power, more connection at those levels than I do when it comes to local law enforcement and how we deal with immigration. So.
Great, we have more hands, sorry. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You mentioned the Aurora Police Chief making commentary, so I was curious. I just did a search here, and Westward shows up as a reporting media source. So if you'll indulge me, Madam Mayor, I'd like to read his comments. Quote, "Of course, we would step in and intervene if the act is so outrageous and compelling to the conscience." This is a quote of Aurora Police Chief Todd Chamberlain in a written statement. He continues, "It is not just the law or our policy. It goes beyond tactics and what is right or wrong and comes down to morals. If our office," I think there's a typo here, "if our offices witness," I think it's supposed to be officers, "witness an egregious or excessive use of force, they will not only step in, but will also report the use of force to their supervisor just like they would if it involved any other officer." Unquote. So it's really kind of interesting where the title of this section in the newspaper talks about police intervention. Of course, Officer Chief Todd Chamberlain says intervene, But then in his last sentence, he says basically that they're going to document and report higher up. So, that's kind of how I'm reading that right now when it comes to Aurora and what their intentions are. I would also like to allow for Corey perhaps to provide commentary because I see he's itching to say
No,
something.
that's precisely what my understanding of what the Aurora Chief of Police said. But I think part of the messaging, and I absolutely appreciate what the mayor is saying, because there's fear in the community. And I think the Northglenn Police is not doing nothing. And I think that's part of what has been if you see a Northglenn police officer, their interest is in keeping this community safe. And so that's the message more than anything, is that they are community partners. Other folks that may be coming into our community are not. And they are. And so it's the spectrum of what we are doing, and it is not doing nothing. And I think that's consistent with the Aurora Police Chief's statement as well.
Well, I'm certainly not going to argue semantics, but he did say step in before he said document, so it was two parts. Anything else?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have one question for the chief. So if we document, obviously, in written report and video, audio, all that stuff, is that all subject to being taken away by the federal government, whether it's a discovery or what have you, or are we able to maintain our own set if we needed to pursue legal action at the state level, or for that matter, if the individual wanted to pursue civil legal matters?
Are you asking whether the federal government can confiscate our body-worn camera evidence and dispossess the city of Northglenn of it? My answer would be no.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So many thoughts. As the communications person, I am going to say intervene means intervene. Not going to be like, and this conversation, this part of this conversation, to me, feels like the antithesis of everything we talked about being there for the community. Doesn't feel that way. I just, if you're seeing me getting the crap beat out of me for like whatever reason, like that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And I think we just, as to the mayor's point, like that's what we need to tell people, is that, because I don't, no offense, but like this whole thing is being recorded. We all have phones. Like that's the whole point. This is like the most documented moment in history, people are saying. And I think saying that you're going to record it too is like, okay, cool. So did they. And so I think what I am looking for is more. Like I want more support for our community, and I don't know if, we can't do that, sure. But I think like the step then that I'm looking for is then this transparency. So, hopefully this never comes to fruition. We never have to deal with this. That is what I'm putting out here. That is what I'm manifesting. But if we do, residents have the proper understanding and can properly prepare for what's about to happen. And to me, I think that is the most important part, is if I'm going to stand for my community, I know what that means and looks like for me, and I know what that's going to look like from y'all. Thank you.
Councilmember Leidy.
Thank you. I have just kind of been taking notes as we've had little discussions. So what I've kind of put together, just for the sake of other people, is if ICE comes in, it's technically under their federal jurisdiction, but if they kill someone, it becomes a homicide in Northglenn, a crime scene for us that would then go to the Adams County DA that would disappear because it's still the feds, right? So like how does that?
If they come in and they kill somebody, they should control that crime scene. If they don't, we would come, try to put a perimeter and everything else to help secure that. That's that conversation that would have, well, hey, we have these resources of using our, and I'm sorry for the confusion,
Yeah.
resources of our critical incident team through Adams County, if they would, cooperate or collaborate with us to have a third party investigate that. But all that's, so if they do something in, under their federal jurisdiction, they're in charge of that whole thing. All we
Okay.
can ask is for cooperation with the locals.
Okay, and so when they don't, because they haven't, the vice president has already said that they get full immunity. So is that something that, like, the conversation, truly what the conversation is that we can't do anything? Like, I feel like we've kind of just gone in a circle of, like, talking about the worst case scenario and giving us all these non-answers, basically, to come to the conclusion of we can't do anything if they come here. We can say, like, we've got your back, and like Councilmember Burns said, like, you'll record, but I'll probably start clicking record before someone's body cam turns on. So how do we tell our residents we can not to be scared, I guess? Like, this is just giving me anxiety, and this is icky.
And I agree, but I can't give illegal orders to my officers to break the law. You can't give that as a council to tell me, Chief, I want you to intervene or obstruct federal law enforcement. It's against the law, and I don't have to follow unlawful orders. So, and it is yucky, and that's why it's like we need to fix this at a different level than the local level, so they're not coming in, to our communities. I hope, what we're talking about is worst case scenarios and everything else, and hopefully it doesn't happen. We will do the messaging that we can, but right now they're considered federal, and I understand your concern on agents, but they are considered, federal law enforcement officers. And if we do anything on that side of it, the obstruction, intervening, that's where we get charged criminally. And it's tough for me because my whole career, I'm telling you, this is not a fun conversation because my whole career is protecting the community and everything else. And when it comes down to it, I mean, Megan's example of putting boots to somebody, then it comes down to the officer on scene, right? But I'm not going to say to them, if it was me in that situation, I'd probably knock the person off them. But I'm not going to give that command, and then I know the repercussions, right? And hopefully I have good attorneys that can help me in that. But I mean, that's just going down a path of what ifs that I didn't really want to get into in the hypotheticals. But I mean, the reality of it is that it's a federal law enforcement action in the community, and we cannot obstruct or interfere with that. That's how I read the law. I think that's how Corey also reads the law.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate in this situation, as a random resident listening to this, what they possibly heard was a resident getting murdered is less important than me getting sued for intervening. Like, that's just to play devil's advocate in that situation. That's kind of,
I'm getting arrested.
okay.
That's
But
the
you're not
difference.
dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess there is moral and legal and all of that, situation, but and I swore an oath, and that would be going against, that's not my makeup, right? I am, the chief of Aurora in Denver. That's decisions they made, so.
Councilmember Goff?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So as we're having this discussion, I mean, it is yucky. But I do understand, like, it's the federal government, and we are part of the United States. So here's my question. What we've been seeing in some, at least I have, in some cases, these federal agents snatching phones from people, knocking people down because they're recording, threatening people because they're recording. Let's say in this worst case scenario, something like that happens in Northglenn, I mean, are you going, I mean, they're obviously violating the law because it is legal for people to record, as long as they're not like obstructing. So can you like play through that scenario? What would happen in that case?
From my perspective on that, again, hypotheticals, trying to work through the problem, right? After it's done or whatever, the phone's, reporting it and, just documenting what happened, and then sending that up to our district attorney and the state attorney saying this is what's occurring. And then they rise the level to the federal level, trying to get a fix or put people on notice. I know Gabe's in the audience and he's seeing me squirm up here, who works, for Senate, Senator Bennett's office. And I think there's resources and everything else that they're able to move things forward if we see that, reporting it to, their office where they can elevate that conversation.
So I guess what I would say to our residents is that it seems like in certain situations, your hands are tied. So our residents need to get out and vote and make some changes at the federal level, because that's why we're having all these problems. I mean, not all of these problems, but this particular problem is compounded by the fact that our state and city values and ordinances or whatever are in conflict at the federal law right now, or at least how people are interpreting federal law right now. Thank you. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on for that.
So it was a secret conversation you had. Councilmember Severs.
Last time, I promise, and I appreciate it. This is not, so I just want to bring it back to a central focus. I agree with most of the things said, but elections have consequences. If you are okay with the First, Second, Fourth, Sixth, Eighth, 10th, and 14th Amendment of the Constitution being broken on a regular basis, then you're good. Stay the course. If you're not okay with that, you need to vote people out. I believe the entire House of Representatives in America are up for election. So everyone in the country can be voted out if you so get activated and choose. So it's politicians that increase their budget from around 10 billion to 45 billion plus and did it for 3 years in a row, right? It's politicians that did that. It's a strong executive, whether you like it or not, that they did that, okay? It wasn't the Northglenn Police Department. And, we don't want our officers getting felonies, but I understand the concern for sure. Again, I'm pretty clear on where I stand on it, and I would love the city attorney, Corey, to jump in if you hear something I'm saying that's stupid, but I looked it up. Again, this is the Brennan Law Center, so they do law for a living. It states, the law is crystal clear. It is illegal to deploy federal troops or armed federal law enforcement to any polling place. In fact, it is a federal crime for anyone in the U.S. military to interfere with elections in any way. More specifically, it is a crime punishable by 5 years in prison to deploy federal troops or armed men to any location where voting is taking place or elections are being held, unless such force is necessary to repel armed enemies of the United States. So as we come up in 9 months and change, and there have been credible threats from the federal administration that they will use maybe some of these same forces that are patrolling cities to post up at polling stations and intimidate people that didn't agree with the trajectory of where we're going. So again, if I missed, that is how I understand the law. So it's not up for debate again of what is lawful and not lawful, whether they follow the rules or not. We don't necessarily get to control that, but you can eliminate the politicians, maybe a bad word, you can vote them out and change. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Whew, this is definitely a very tough discussion. I think we all want to be able to do more, but also understand your point in having to respect the laws and keep your officers from getting arrested as well. So it's really tough because I know morally we've seen everything that's been happening. And it's just this dichotomy of what we can and cannot do. So I'll go back to what I said before about the transparency, and everybody said it, right? Well, we just need to let everybody know this is what we can, this is what we will, and this is what we cannot, and this is what we won't do. But several times you mentioned, you know, we need things to be fixed on a federal level, and I know Senator Bennett is working on legislation right now to try to fix some of these things. I don't have the information exactly that is in this legislation in front of me, but I know maybe that's a piece of it, right? Because we do need things to change. And yes, everybody said it, vote. You're not happy? Vote. Make your voice heard if you want things to change. But I am curious to see what that legislation is going to look like, and if that changes things. I mean, it's I can't say where it'll be changed, but if there's maybe an ability to step in if there's something so egregious like the last shooting that happened, that was just so obvious that should not have happened. I'm so torn like everybody else here between, yeah, we know what we need to be able to follow the law and do things legally, as Corey has mentioned too. So I don't know. I think we need to keep an eye on that legislation as well and see if that helps fix some things. But this is a sucky place to be. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no kidding. Really quickly, so federal legislation, yes, but you also mentioned state. And I know that there's 2 Senate bills, I think 26.5 and 26.6. Corey, do you have any thoughts on those? Are those going to help our situation?
No idea. I mean, the fact is that no matter what we do at the state level, when they're enforcing federal law, our ability to intervene is limited.
Well, I think it's non-existent is what we've heard. I think we've covered the word intervene, but what I'm looking at, so 26.5 says that Coloradans harmed during an immigration enforcement encounter will be allowed to pursue legal action against them. Is that real? Or again, if you're saying we pass it at the state, but it doesn't really have any teeth?
I am hard-pressed to see how a state court could provide a remedy for a violation of federal law.
Okay, so it could be that some of this is performative a little bit in sending a message, as well as 26.6, which calls on the federal government to reaffirm civil rights for all, which we're talking about, right? Civil rights, ending the anonymous enforcement tactics, and protecting education and healthcare and civic participation, which I think you were talking about with voting. So, but you're thinking they're just...
6 is more aspirational.
Got it.
But to what Councilmember Leidy said earlier, just because the vice president says that an officer has immunity does not make it so.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
And so, you know, though I would like to think the rule of law still matters.
Me too.
And the idea of shooting an individual for filming something who happened to be lawfully carrying a weapon and then making the weapon the pretext for shooting, based on my understanding of federal law, that individual would not have immunity. And so I would respectfully disagree with the vice president, but time will tell.
Okay, and that's true. And I think, as has been stated, this is not a comfortable conversation. It doesn't feel good, and I think it's because this is just not a good place to be in right now in our country. But I think if you recall, I'm going to kind of wrap us back to the beginning of the conversation, which started with thank you. Thank you for the work you do. We are not advocating for your demise. We do not want you to do anything illegal. We want you to be safe as well when you go out into the community. That's a huge part of this. I think what you're hearing is frustration and worry, and also a response to a lot of questions we get from residents where they want us to be able to do something that's going to make them feel safer when they leave their house. And I think we're going to do what we can do. So if we can put out really clear language to help them understand where we stand, at the end of the day, everybody up here knows where your heart is and the work that you do for our community, and we respect it and we appreciate it. This is a hard place for you guys to be into, because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are protesting that are putting ICE and police in the same bucket. And that really upsets me, right? Now we've got the anti-police sentiment we had in 2020 because of what ICE is doing. And that is something that I will defend quite a bit. I think I almost got into quite an argument with someone who was making, pig comments at an anti-ICE rally. And I was like, stop. They're two very different things. Our local police departments, they are here to protect us and to keep us safe. ICE is doing some bad things, and it's not okay what they're doing. And there is a need to actually call it out and say, that was murder, that was wrong, because the message is shifting. So I don't know if I could just wrap it up again by saying thank you and sorry, this is hard.
No, it's been my absolute pleasure to serve this community. I have incredible staff, my co-response team, my victim advocates. The last thing I want to do is where people don't feel they have a voice, right? Mm-hmm. Victims need that voice, and I truly want them to come forward. Your police department will do the best that we can, and it is just a rough time, terrible time for sure.
Mm-hmm. There aren't words enough to describe the weight that we feel and that we hear from the community as well. And we understand the frustration, we understand the fear, and a lot of sleepless nights for us in trying to work through the problem. And sometimes we're bound by things that are out of our control. As frustrating as that might be for a lot of people, but it isn't from a lack of effort or the want to keep this community as safe as humanly possible. You got 60 years of it standing up here talking to you. That's not going away, right?
Just put 40 on him, you'll be fine.
A little bit more on this side than on mine, but it's in an effort, as you've heard some of the people speak here tonight on our behalf and what it is that we're trying to do. It's decades and decades and decades of trust that we're very proud of, that we've worked with the community. That's why we're not afraid to go out to the community to tell them that we'll be there for them. And it's not going to stop just because this was a lengthy conversation that wasn't the easiest, because sometimes the answer just isn't what we would all like it to be. Mm-hmm. But it's not from a lack of effort from us.
I appreciate the support. Thank you.
Well, 100%. And we are all looking forward to celebrating you all on Friday, honoring the work that you're doing, celebrating everything, because we do appreciate you.
We have a great night and a great surprise for you guys too. So
nice.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for those of you that hung out, Public Invited to be Heard is back. This is an opportunity for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments must be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to council at this time?
Yes, there is.
No follow-up? Oh, hey, I think I hear someone online.
Yes,
on the phone. Did you unmute by pressing *6?
I am going to right now, and it didn't work, but hopefully it's working now.
Yeah, I think we can hear you. So please just state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Stephen Musco, Ward 3, and it's been a very interesting conversation you all have had tonight. I would caution you to be also aware that being perceived as very anti-ICE is going to be very unproductive as well. There is a significant part of society that would welcome ICE to do their job. You don't like the methodology. That's, I think, more of the point of the debate than whether they have a job to do that is right or wrong. It's currently how it's being done. That said, I think it's good that the mayor and the pro tem are exactly right about how you produce your response, and being very clear about this is what we're limited to do as far as intervention goes, observation goes, and where you can go with this statewide and federally. I know you're limited, but there is some direction that can be had there. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this thing with ICE because we're not going to solve it anytime soon, other than to have you understand there is a part of the population that thinks ICE has a duty to do, and their duty is correct. Their methodology massively needs improvement, but that's something that you need to keep in mind as you're looking at the whole picture. Moving on to what I originally was watching this over is the whole thing with the sex offenders in the neighborhoods. And again, I agree with City Council on this one that's not appropriate. And it would be good if there was something that City Council can do tiptoeing around being indelicate to give the public here some direction as to what we can do or who we can contact to say, hey, you know, City Council's been talking to you about this and you really need to get on board. Let's see, you've spoken about a senator and a representative, Goldstein, obviously backing her writing this bill. I don't know what happened to the one you mentioned earlier that was on board 2 years ago and suddenly disappeared. She needs to be reminded, as you say. And any others that I noticed, Ms. Barnes, I can't find any contact information for her online, and I'd like to be able to contact her directly and say my thoughts on having sex offenders in neighborhoods, and anyone else that you would think is an appropriate contact to kind of back you guys up on not having sex offenders in local neighborhoods.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Is there
and I'll be looking to see if you have any contact information or anything, a follow-up that we can do, please post it. I noticed the notice for this meeting was kind of short, so follow up on it will be greatly appreciated. So the other residents that didn't find out about this till this afternoon can have their input heard as far as both topics tonight, but particularly the sex offenders in the neighborhood. I'm sure the people right in Ward 3 would be very interested in being heard on the matter.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to council at this time? Yeah. Hi, please state your name and address and provide your comments to council.
Hey, my name is Kevin. I live on Carlisle Street. I think I'm in Ward 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I came here because I am concerned about the ICE thing because, I mean, we should be. And the color of my skin, I don't feel safe. And I came here hoping I'd hear something that would make me feel safer. But really, what I got was, you're on your own. Even if like my rights are being violated, as in my house is being broken into without a warrant, or, you know, a knee on my upper back, I'm on the ground, it's gonna get filmed, and that is all, like, that is really what I got. And I thank everyone here that spoke up and like really represented their community as well. But yeah, that's just wanted to share some comments and thoughts on that. But I think everyone did a great job of representing us. But I don't think anyone's feeling any safer, and I really hope this is communicated very transparently that nothing's going to be done, really, and that we hope the federal government fixes it before it gets to us is kind of what I'm taking from this. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night. Oh, yeah, come on up.
Matthew Phillip, Ward 4. And so I think more so I'm in AP Gov class, and I mean, I don't know if it'll answer your questions, but so in the Constitution, in Article 6, Section 2, it's called the Supremacy Clause, and it's called the enumerated powers given to the executive branch. And it says that it establishes that the Constitution, federal laws made pursuant to it, and treaties are the supreme law of the land. It mandates that state judges are bound by federal law. And so, I mean, I guess my point is, I don't really know if it'll answer your questions, but I think what the chief and deputy chief were trying to get at is that they can't do anything, right? I mean, if you obstruct it, they'd get tried by the Attorney General of the United States, and they'd go to prison. And so, you know, it's more so, it's a clear, definitive line, right, between what, you know, actual we can do as a community and stuff like that. And I think to answer the question as to, I guess what me and Mr. Nowicki can discuss in tomorrow's meeting more so if this is related to it. But it's more so setting clear guidelines as to what our officers actually can do within our community, right? Like mentioning the Supremacy Clause where they can't actually do anything because like what President Trump passed was an executive order mandating the deportation of illegal undocumented immigrants, right? And executive order entails the Supremacy Clause. It is, you know, in lines with the Supremacy Clause, and we as a state have to follow that. I think it was I forgot his name, the governor of Minneapolis after Renee Good was shot. They mentioned many times that they wanted to pursue legal litigation of the ICE officer who shot her. And I mean, the process is lengthy, right? And I think the only way I could say this, and Mr. Sievers has mentioned it many times about voting and stuff, the only way we can change this is by our community going to our representatives within Congress and the Senate and saying, you know, amending the Supremacy Clause, you know, changing things that the enumerated powers that the executive branch actually has. Because, I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous and stuff like that. I think that's more so something that should be, I mean, you know, specified within, you know, the announcement about what the police officers can do, because you can't change the minds of ignorant people overall, right? But you can at least tell them that these police officers will stay uninvolved in ICE operations, but at the same time, they can't do anything, right? All they can do is, you know, record and stuff like that, and document these things and stuff like that. And I wish there was something where the police officers could actually come in and, you know, intervene in the sense where it's like he mentioned, pushing an ICE officer off of a citizen in that case, but no, it's not possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to council at this time? No? Okay. Thank you. I will entertain a motion that the City Council hold an executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding the application of certain federal grant certification requirements.
Motion to approve is so stated.
Seconded.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and the motion to meet in executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session.